Okay, welcome. I call our meeting to order, and as always, I will start with the public participation at Town of Hatfield Select Board meetings. The Hatfield Select Board welcomes everyone to its meetings and to all public meetings of the Town of Hatfield. All regular and special meetings of the boards and committees of the Town of Hatfield shall be open to the public and shall conform to the open meeting law. Executive sessions are closed to the public and will be held only prescribed by the statutes of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. It is important to recognize that the open meeting law affords the opportunity to listen to the proceedings, but not necessarily participate. During meetings of the Select Board, an attempt will be made to find a balance between hearing from members of the community and conducting the required business of the Hatfield Select Board. For the public's information, this meeting is being recorded. Under announcements, I announce with great sadness the passing of our building inspector, Kyle Scott, who recently passed away. Kyle's been the town building inspector since, I believe, 2014. He was well respected with all the different contractors, and he worked well with all the contractors in the area. So my condolences, and I believe the board's condolences to Kyle's family, and we're sorry for his passing. It's sad to start a meeting that way, but he was a good guy. So I don't know if anybody else wants to make any comments on that for announcement.
Just had a great relationship with him, and he was a fantastic building inspector and a good person in general. So very sad to see him pass.
He will be missed.
He will be missed. And on the other hand, Andrew did have a new child, so I mean, congratulations.
Congratulations.
Okay. Is anybody, let's see, those are the announcements. Anybody here for public forum? John is. Again, under public forum, we can't respond to anything because unless it's on the agenda.
John Pease, Chair of the Ag Commission. Just like to tell the townspeople to beware of the farm equipment to be on the road. There's already farmers prepping land, everything. We have our select board member that has been collecting sap. You know, the traffic on these roads are very, like you say, dangerous sometimes. So please be aware of the equipment, the people, the personnel around them. Again, you don't want to have emergency services going out responding to anybody. Horses being ridden or tethered off with people walking. Please be safe out there. Thank you very much.
Is anybody else here for public forum? If not, we're going to have a change in our agenda. We're going to go with Zephyr behavior first. So if Zephyr would come up, please introduce yourself, provide your names and the purpose of being here this evening.
Awesome. Well, my name is Rachel Paul, and I'm joined by Oriana Rizidlo, and we're from Zephyr Behavioral Healthcare, which is right across the street here. And essentially, we're just kind of seeking permission from the town of Hatfield to host a short parade on Main Street. The parade is going to be a part of our Autism Acceptance Festival, which is celebrating 5 years of Zephyr Behavioral Healthcare. And so the parade would be on April 25th. And we're kind of asking for Main Street to be closed, a short portion of Main Street between 1:45 and 2:30. And essentially it would start in Zephyr's parking lot, which is behind the Hatfield General Store, and then just kind of end at the Hatfield Pavilion on Billings Way.
This was something that was also approved back in 2023, and it was a very successful event that was hosted. The police chief and fire department back then were involved in it, and it was a great time. They've been invited again this year. Overall, we feel like this is a really great opportunity for families and children with autism to be able to come together in the community and gain access to resources provided, and we would really appreciate the town's approval to host this parade.
Wonderful. The only question I have is the police chief been discussed in this, and
He was
he's happy.
contacted, and while they're a little short-staffed right now, wants to make sure they can make this work. So
Well, I thank you guys for all you do. I personally have no issue with you having a small parade and having your event. I don't know.
I have no issue with that. I think
No.
it's great.
Went off without a hitch last time, so.
So I guess we'll put that into a motion, I believe. We need a motion on that.
Is it a motion or just a permit?
You can make the motion to approve it, and then we'll record it, and it should be fine.
Okay, fine.
I'll make a motion to approve Zephyr behavior request for a small parade down Main Street, April 25th from 1:45 till 2:30.
Motion made,
Second?
motion seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, you're all set. Thank
Thank you
you.
you
so
guys so much.
much. Appreciate it.
Okay. And we're still going out of order, so we wanted to go with,
Health insurance?
what did you want to go next?
So let's talk about the health insurance next, if that's all right.
Okay, we'll go with the health insurance. We have anybody here for health insurance?
Yeah, I'll tee it up quickly,
Okay.
and then I know we have some folks here who are willing to answer questions that the board has, and I try to give the board as much background as possible on what's going on. But we have, as a lot of people know who've been following these meetings, seen large increases in our healthcare costs. We're currently insured through the Hampshire County Group Insurance Trust. Our employees receive insurance through Blue Cross Blue Shield. Last year, there was a 20% increase scheduled in rates, followed by a mid-year increase in October of an additional 20%. So if you look at our overall healthcare costs, they have increased significantly from around $700,000 in our budget to next year's planned amount is around, it's close to $1.35 million. So we've seen large increases in healthcare costs. While our members are happy with the healthcare through Blue Cross, those costs have led us to look for other options. We had a long discussion earlier this year about potentially moving to the Group Insurance Commission through the state. We also looked at quotes through Maya. We've also continued to stay involved with the Hampshire County Group Insurance Trust to help try to see if there's changes that can be made in the trust. We've found that the leadership much improved in the trust this year, and there's been good things happening there. We did also receive a proposal this year for a self-insured model through brokers at Fern Rock Benefits Consultants. And this came in somewhat recently, but it was shared with our Insurance Advisory Committee and shared with our Public Employee Committee, our PEC. And we've been reviewing this as it would involve only a 7.5% increase in rates this year versus the 12.5% that was approved through the Hampshire County Group Insurance Trust. Also, the Hampshire County Group Insurance Trust will be moving to having deductibles and higher copays. Deductibles will be $250 per individual, $500 per family plan, and then increased deductibles, most notably on specialists, which would move from $35 to $60, and a number of other inpatient deductible copay increases as well. So I've made the board aware of the proposal from Fern Rock, as well as updated them on everything going on with the trust. We do have representatives here tonight from both the trust and from Fern Rock Benefits Consultants, should the board have questions. The deadline for deciding to exit the trust is April 1st, and we've been proceeding by looking at different options, but it's looked like the best move would be to continue with the trust. At this time, we do have this other proposal that is worth considering, and I've made the board aware of how this proposal works. But I do want to give you time to either ask any questions or allow either a short presentation or bullet points from Fern Rock if that's helpful, and from the trust as well.
But I do want the town to know that we did form an advisory committee, and maybe you can explain a little bit about the advisory committee and what they've been recommending to the town.
That's correct. Yeah, the Insurance Advisory Committee is required by state law to review any changes to insurance, especially if there's plan design changes. So this group was formed this year. We did not have one in the past, and they will continue to weigh in on any potential changes to plan design. The potential move to a new insurer, as long as there's no plan design changes, is only a decision of the select board. But any plan design changes need to be reviewed by the AAC and then approved by the PEC rather than by the select board. What we're considering right now is potential change in carrier and change in who our insurance is received from rather than a change in a plan design. The IAC reviewed this potential move to a self-insured model through Fern Rock, and we had, I'd say, a split in the reviewers of which direction they advised going in. I'd say around 3 were to Fern Rock. About 4 were thinking of staying with the Hampshire County Group Insurance Trust, and 1 said they could really go either way. And we have a couple of those members here tonight who can definitely speak if they'd like to discuss more about the IAC's discussions.
Yes, but and also, I mean, if I guess the options we were talking earlier, if you stay with the present plan, you can always change next year. If you move to this plan, once you move off of the plan you're presently on, then it's probably no going back. And if you move to GIC, it's probably another option, right? So it's still trying to figure out which direction is the best direction, because the costs keep increasing on health insurance for everybody, and it's been a national issue. So I know that the board has been looking at this and looking at different options. So I don't know if they're looking at something that's cheaper, or what, if the advisory board's even split on this too, right? I mean, your advisory board isn't 100% behind one plan or another, correct? They're basically,
Yes, there were different, because there's different pros and cons of each plan. I think that came to the forefront. There's, a different insurer that we'd have to move to if we went to the self-insured route, and I think that was a concern for some folks. A change can be difficult, and there's also some considerations that if we were to move, runoff costs with the trust would be the responsibility of the town, and those could be significant. So we're still trying to decide if it would be worth it to make this change. It looks like through the self-insured model that on paper you'd be saving, because we've been moving to 7.5% increases over this year rather than 12.5% increases. It could save around $50,000 over the next year, which is significant for our budget. But at the same time, those runoff costs could be large as well. So we need to consider that.
so I mean, we have a cutoff date we have to know this by, right?
We do need to make our decision we would make it tonight.
By tonight.
Yeah.
So let my colleagues weigh in on their opinions.
I agree with what you said. I don't think we necessarily, if we leave the Hampshire County Group Insurance Trust, it's very unlikely we will get back into it, at least at the rate that we're paying. So I would like to explore this more. I just think that, unfortunately, we need some more time to be able to look into it. Because those runoff costs could be substantial. But there's also years that we could see large gains returned back to the town as well. So there's definitely a cost benefit that we should review, but I don't think we're going to have time to do that in the next 20 minutes.
No, I agree 100%. I think that, saving $50,000 is very nice, but if we have any runoffs from the insurance, then we've lost that gamble.
Yeah.
And Blue Cross is the health insurance that the employees have right now is really, really good, I think. And I'd rather not take a chance of losing that excellent service that you get from Blue Cross right now.
So you, if I'm hearing you guys correctly, for this coming year, you'd like to stay with what there is.
I think
What's the contract length for
or-
the trust? Is it just year by year?
It would be an additional year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So they
Yeah.
have
So-
another opportunity to,
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to talk to a couple other towns that have moved to more of a self-insured direction, especially if another town of our size, with potential, the same financial constraints that we have, and find out how it's working for them. Are they seeing, 3 years of cost savings and then maybe 1 year where you have some additional expenses that kind of even stuff out? Where does stuff land with that? And how can we better financially plan for it? Certainly we can't keep seeing 20-40% increases year to year through the trust. And I don't think that any town that's part of the trust will continue to tolerate that either. So,
and the problem being we're on a time limit, and this third option just came up. And we really had no time to even review it, just some discussion on it, correct?
I like the structure of it, that if there is cost savings at the end of the year, that's then returned back to the town. Correct? Like,
If it would help, would you like to hear from the broker who presented this, at least for a short presentation or just a little
That-
information?
That's fine. I mean, if my colleagues are entertain it.
Yeah,
mean,
and
they're
then,
here.
and then we can let the trust give us a quick update on
Yeah,
where they're
let's
at.
do
It's
it.
just been a lot.
Okay.
So Anthony Lively from Rock Benefits Consultant, would you like to give a quick update?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm gonna attempt to share my screen here too, if I can.
Unfortunately, they can't see it here in the room. I don't know, John, if they can see it
No.
on YouTube. No. So
Oh,
so
okay.
if the screen's helpful for you, please do it. I can see it, and we'll record it here. But yeah, go ahead.
Absolutely, absolutely. So thanks for having me. Anthony Lively, president, co-founder of Burn Rock Benefit Consultants. Again, I'll just, I'll run through the 10,000-foot view, explain a little bit about what we came up with. But first off, I'd just like to thank you all for, spending some time and donating a lot of time to your community. I'm sure you probably don't get thanked enough. I spent a lot of my free time as chair of my small town of Shirley, Mass. Finance Committee, and I know there's not a lot of thank yous thrown around. So thank you for doing everything you do for your community. I'm sure you don't hear it enough. So I'll jump right in. A little bit about Fern Rock. We're basically 100% Mass municipal focused consulting firm for municipalities. We have over 100 years combined municipal experience. I've been in this industry for the last 16 years. We are a newer firm, but again, our roots date back over almost 30 years into this business, and have worked with collectively over 200 municipalities. And I can go into more detail on that, but suffice to say, this is what we do, and we're very passionate, and we feel that in the municipal sector, it's difficult to find levers to pull that can benefit employees and the community, and save on costs. And that's what we try to do with the way that we structured these plans. And I think I'll jump right in by saying, you guys aren't alone with seeing unsustainable cost increases, crazy system complexity, pharmacy cost pressure, difficulty with transparency. I know, that's something that's come up amongst trust members and others in fully insured arrangements. So that's something we're seeing across the board. And I think Andrew has a packet that we put together, but
And the board does have access to that, because they have that in front of them.
the current structure we have is similar to the captive structure that we presented to you as self-insured, but there's some differences, and I want to spend a little bit of time highlighting that. So we've been in the joint purchase group space for a very long time. Our COO, her father started, I think it was 9 of the 11 joint purchase groups across the state. And her firm supported 9 of those. I also worked at that firm in one capacity or another, and have been around this space for a long time. And we've studied it. And essentially the trust is operating in what we call the 1.0 model. And essentially that means that everything goes into a pool, everybody shares first dollar coverage, and the board sets the rates, the surplus stays with the trust. We've kind of developed this captive structure. We do have multiple communities that I think Andrew has talked to that are part of this now with similar programs. But essentially, it pools risk still, but at a higher level, at your higher claims. The employer still pays monthly level premium. It goes into the captive insurance pool and into your own for benefit of account. And you as an employer choose cost control levers and ways to reduce costs. And when I say that, there's a lot of things that I can point to, but we'll get into that shortly. And I'll try to keep this brief. The other thing, and I think somebody mentioned it, is surplus stays attributed to the community. So that's an important structure, a structural difference. A couple points under the captive structure that we're proposing is full claims transparency, custom cost control strategies, and the next thing I'm going to get into is a multi-level risk protection, and I think that's a key difference. So we're showing you a rate at the 7.5% that Andrew mentioned. But included in that, the protections are much different than what you're seeing in your current arrangement. You right now have what's called specific stop loss insurance, and that covers each individual. And I believe that level is at $400,000 in claims. So that's a rather large number, but that's currently how it's structured, and you're part of a big trust, and you have that. This proposal also includes another type of stop loss coverage that's called aggregate coverage. And that aggregate coverage essentially covers you as things run away. So it could be a lot of claims, not just large claims. So it's individual caps, and then it's an overall cap, essentially, is an easy way to explain it. And what this helps to do is set up an employer like yourself. This program is built for smaller employers to be able to have level monthly premiums for both the employee and the employer. So when we put this together, we've built this in a different way that enables you to have all the advantages of the trust, where you have your risk is spread out between, I think it's 296 employers, over 45,000 members, but you're pulling at the stop loss level, at the higher claim level, not at $1 coverage. So that helps avoid some of the issues that we see around transparency and decision-making, et cetera, and helps you to be able to be nimble to make changes. And then, again, I have another slide that talks about this really well, but basically what we do is with the aggregate coverage is when we build your rates, a reinsurer decides what they expect your claims to be. And then at 25% above that, they have what's called an aggregate attachment point. And I know I'm getting really far in the weeds, but I think it's important for you guys to understand the differences between what you have in front of you. And that's where we set the rates at that 125% attachment point. So what does that mean? It means that you're going to have level rates for a 12-month period. Whereas with the current structure, you're going off a projected rate that is developed by the consultant. That's what they do. That's their job. This is projected by the reinsurance carrier and backed up with aggregate insurance coverage. So you fund to max. So that's how it differs. And I think that's a huge advantage because it gives you a much more secure financial structure that backs this up. And again, as a smaller employer, again, you guys aren't a huge trust. It gives you the backing, but also the potential for surplus, etc. So again, I jumped into the weeds pretty far there, but the reason I wanted to do that is just explain the difference. And I think everybody's seen last year there was a large mid-year rate increase. With this program, we're building at that max cost structure, so that doesn't happen. So again, there's a lot to discuss here, but I think it's fair to kind of explain a little bit about the differences and the advantages to both structures. There's a lot that we do with this plan, but the main goal is we help members to better manage their health and have programs and tools available for them to do that. And I can go through a ton of information on this, but like, again, there's diabetes care. If a member, takes part in that, they get their medications for free. And the reason why we do that is because if somebody's adherent with those programs, instead of a 2% cost increase per year, you're looking at a 15% for somebody that's unmanaged. So there's a lot of programs, second opinion service, free telemedicine, all these things that we do as part of this that really help to get members the care they need and make sure they're able to get it, which helps reduce costs overall. And we do spend a lot of time with the high cost claims and making sure that we're getting pharmacy in the best way possible. People are getting the care they need. And again, typically if somebody engages in one of these programs, the costs would go down. So it's a really kind of our focus in the way that we do things. And I'll just run through the quote that we put together. So again, one of the key differences between the option that we put together and what's on the table from the trust, and I think everybody pointed to it, is the plan design. We believe that's the last cost control measure that we like to use. It's certainly a tool that we do use, but we feel that there's other things that we're able to do. So we propose this with no plan design changes for the employees in terms of co-pays, deductibles, things like that. It is based upon using the Harvard Pilgrim Network and United Network outside of Maine, New Hampshire, and Massachusetts. So it's Harvard Pilgrim locally, and then people can use the United. And EPO plan, which is, it's on an EPO chassis instead of an HMO chassis, means that members under this plan do not need to get referrals. So again, it is a very member-driven plan, and the rates set forth that Andrew mentioned are again, it's structured in a much different way financially. Is there any questions so far? And again, I'll wrap up pretty shortly here, but I just wanted to kind of address kind of the key differences. I will say, I'll stop there, and I have a few points to add, but any questions?
No, go ahead.
I have a couple. So your current proposal has no plan change in it. But with the trust, we're moving to we would have to move to a $250, $500 deductible. So is it safe to assume that if you included a plan change in that to move to a deductible, that we would see even greater savings? So we're comparing apples to apples?
I do think you would see a small saving. I would say that that would be the last lever that we would take in terms of changes. We would prefer not to do that, and the reason is because we want to help members to better manage their health, and anything we can do to remove those barriers, we do. And the load to the rate, when you look at the max attachment point with an actuary, is minimal. We're talking a point or two. So the savings isn't as good. And I'll give you the reason that I fully believe that. And what we see is typically 2 to 3% of claimants in any given year, and they could be different, are driving about 50% of your spend. So if we add a $250 or $500 deductible, that's not going to really change that much, but it may change somebody that's going to get a screening or something like that. So plan design is, again, the last thing we like to change. We feel like we can better procure medications. We can put in chronic care management programs that help members to be healthy and save more money doing that. And we can prove that by what the stop loss carriers actually give us for discounting for those programs, much more than plan design changes. But again, to your point, we can certainly, this is your program. It's administered by Health Plans Inc. They're they're part of Point 32, Harvard Pilgrim. But they're fully customizable, so we can design the plan in any way you see fit.
The other question I have is that we currently receive a discount for paying in full, and we have, right?
That's for Hampshire County Retirement.
Oh, never mind. Disregard.
Yeah, we get the same thing. We do the same thing for our retirement, and then I think we do the same thing for our PNC. We pay that in advance as well in Shirley. Same thing.
That's all I got.
Anything else?
No, I'm good. We have a time crunch here. We have a full agenda. We have the finance committee coming in, so I don't think we have much more time for discussion on this topic.
Want to quickly allow for anything from the trust, Hampshire County Group Insurance Trust? It's up to you,
I
Chair.
mean, right now, I'm saying because of this new option that came up, we still don't know a lot about it except what we're being presented.
Mhm.
And it just seems, if we have to make a decision tonight, it just seems to me it makes more sense to stay with what we got. And then during the remainder of the year, continue the advisory commission to look at this and come up with, review this and review everything. And then we'll have more information for the next year. It's because we're under the time crunch, basically. I don't see.
I would tend to agree. And same thing, if we see an increase from the trust outside of what they're already projecting, like another mid-year increase, I cannot imagine that we would stay.
I have a hand raised from Mary Ellen Calderwood of the Mass Teachers Association. Would you like to allow her to speak, or would you like to move on.
Well, I mean, I wish we had more time for this topic because we have a full agenda, but I mean, I'm willing, if my colleagues want to move in the other direction, that's fine with me. But I mean, and if we were to vote right now, which direction would you say we need to go in? You're
I'd
going to
like
go
to-
with the
I'd-
cost savings?
I'm on the fence.
mean-
I could be persuaded.
I think Greg likes the Blue Cross Blue Shield that he presently has, right? And so he's not, and I don't know if you're aware of this new plan.
Yeah. As much as I could be, I just read it today.
I mean, I know the intent of this plan is to save money, but we're just getting everything
I'm okay with staying where we're
tonight.
at.
It's like, are we guaranteed the savings? And I mean, is it what it really is? I mean, I don't know. And we did have an advisory commission to help guide us through this process. And they're divided on 2 plans, and I don't know if they even reviewed this
Well, yeah,
plan.
they would have reviewed this. This is the other proposal they were considering, and there were
Okay.
some members who did feel strongly about moving that direction, and others who felt strongly about staying with the trust. So it's a difficult decision. They were divided.
So right now, would you say the advisory commission wants this plan?
I would say the advisory committee weighed more towards staying with the trust. The town's PEC, the Public Employee Committee, was more strongly towards the self-insured model through Fern Rock.
Okay.
It's somewhat different membership.
So since we have to make a decision tonight, do you require any more information?
I don't.
Okay. I mean, we feel you can vote right now on this?
Yeah,
Okay.
Sure.
we probably don't have to do anything unless we're moving.
That's right. You would only make a motion if you intended to move.
So, I mean, I am in the middle here, so I like to go with the majority of the advisory commission. The majority of the advisory commission wanted this new plan that we're
were split.
talking about, or they want to
Majority
keep
of
the
the
trust.
advisory committee, I would say, would say to stay with the Hampshire County Group Insurance Trust.
Okay,
But
so
the PEC, the Public Employee Committee, which represents our unionized workforce, was strongly in favor of Fern Rock, of the self-insured model.
and the advantage of that is if we stay with the present plan, we can always change next year, right?
That's correct. Yeah,
so
we
it's
have the
not-
ability to change in the future.
And that during this next year, we would have more time, they would have more time to review
Yep.
all
You
three
have more
plans.
time to research whatever else you'd like. Yep.
Okay, so as we talked earlier today, I'll stick with that decision.
Mhm.
So I'm not gonna get, well, I'm gonna stick with staying with what we have, and then I still recommend the advisory commission to keep meeting and reviewing the insurance so we get more information. That's where I'm coming from. I don't know I know you're looking at cost savings, so you're looking at towards this? Is that what you're saying?
I would say that I would lean more heavily towards the Fern Rock self-insured model.
Okay. And you're leaning which way?
Staying where we were, I think it's too much of a gamble to switch for $50,000 and take the chance that we get some runoff. We might end up, as far as the town is concerned,
Can I just jump in on one?
we might end up.
The-
Hold on a second. Hold on.
part of it-
Hey, hold on.
Sorry, just 1 second. He'll be right back.
Hold on. I just think that after saving the $50,000, if there's a runoff and we have to pay more than $50,000 for the town, we'll have to eat that up. The town will not save any money, and I think it's kind of a gamble. I don't want to take that kind of gamble.
Do you want the response from Anthony, or would you rather not? Go ahead, Anthony.
Yeah, I just wanted to just point out one thing, and I do appreciate the consideration. I know there's time constraints here. I just want to point out that I think, there is a $50,000 savings, but I think the financial structure is with the aggregate coverage, that helps with alleviating the idea of a mid-year rate increase. And I know that was a major budgetary impact for you guys last year and a lot of other communities. So I think again, and the runoff certainly a consideration. But I do believe the town does have some money on deposit for that. I know most communities do. So again, just a couple things, food for thought, but when you're considering the delta, also consider that, that this includes, more protection than the current trust option. And again, I'll stop there. I appreciate you letting me pipe in.
I think that was that was probably my biggest concern is that the trust can say they're only raising us 12% now, but like last year was 20 and then an additional 20. What's going to happen in June this year?
Yeah.
And you know, so that's the reason that I'm probably leaning more towards this news source, but I just don't have a lot of trust left in the trust.
Yeah.
So, we got to move this along. We have to make a decision. I'm gonna stay with Hampshire County, and then next year, if things change, we switch out. I mean, for now, because
It sounds like that's what you guys are both more comfortable with. This isn't a hill that I'm going to die on. So
This is, yeah, well, this is, it sounds like a good deal also, but I mean, I just found out about it today. So.
I would like to talk, like I said, to some other smaller communities that have
Yeah.
moved to this and
Yeah.
seen, at least get some data back on
that'll give
what
us
was their
time.
risk. I do like the two different between the aggregate stop loss and the specific stop loss. I think it does offer us a lot of protections, but I would like to see some data from some other towns as well.
Perfect. So we
Keep investigating it.
will have time to investigate that the next year
Mhm.
and keep the advisory committee together to help us investigate. So,
I do have one last super fast question.
okay.
And Andrew, you might be able to answer this. If there is a mid-season rate increase with the trust, are we allowed to drop mid-contract and explore another option like this?
I believe it would be difficult to do so. We really are, insured through the trust throughout the year, but we can always discuss what that would look like.
So we're staying where we're at.
So thank you, everybody, for, there's a lot of people on this call right now. I appreciate your interest in this and following along, and folks for the information. Anthony, thank you very much. And from the trust, Danielle and Mariana, thank you for being on. And we'll continue to follow this and keep the board closely apprised of what's happening.
Thank you so much for your time and consideration. I really appreciate the audience, and everybody from the town's been great, and I appreciate them looking at other options for their community. Appreciate you guys. Take care.
Thank you.
So, would you like to make an motion?
I don't think we need one.
Yeah, nothing's needed if you're staying with the
No,
trust.
we don't need a motion, right?
We can leave it the way it is.
All right. So, as we've been skipping around, I'd like to go to the consent agenda, approval of the minutes before we move any further. So I don't forget.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the March 10th, 2026 meeting.
Second.
Motion made, motion seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. Okay, fire chief is here, so we'll go with him next. We'll move to the South County EMS response. I believe that's what our fire chief wants to discuss.
Yes, and I wanted to make sure we discuss this as well, since we hinted at this in the meeting when we went over the fire chief's budget. But we have received this letter from South County EMS discussing how we will be billed $350 per response from South County when they respond to the town when we do not have coverage. So, Chief, I don't know if you want to take it from here.
Andrew is the one that added this to the agenda. I know that the discussion was if we wanted to have a discussion with South County. This conversation's kind of been going on with South County for a number of months. I know Chief Sparks from South County met with his board of overseers from the 3 communities. And it sounds like, based on the letter, they've done their due diligence. And if anybody saw the article in the Recorder or the Gazette, they ran the numbers, and this is what it is. So I think it was really whether or not the town was trying to negotiate with them to see if they would lower that price. From my standpoint, I believe that they probably have already done their due diligence, and that price is what they're going to offer. I don't foresee it going down if we were going to try to negotiate with them.
Okay. Well, it is what it is, right?
I believe that's to be the case. I mean, we could ask as a community, but my gut feeling is that that is probably the number that they've come up with over the last 8 to 10 months, as this is kind of stretched out a little bit. And the more that they had been coming here,
Any
I don't
discussion?
foresee it changing.
Is this going to be some sort of contract that we'll have with them?
I believe there will be an agreement once it goes through, just says that this is exactly what it is for that price.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's where we are. Yeah.
to me, I thought, we potentially had the option to try to say, would you prefer just a flat fee or something instead? We could calculate an average, and then, there's less administrative cost that way. They might want that. Or we could try to counter with a lower fee. We could do something else. But I think it's the chief saying, most likely there's not going to be a lot of wiggle room on this. And, it is fair in a lot of ways that they'd want to charge for it. In the first year of this, since we didn't really know this was coming, at least in this form until now, we believe we can cover most of this through our ambulance trust fund, and we can also add some budget to this. But we'll need to scramble to come up with a way to pay these fees. So it'll cost around $65,000 a year.
All right.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
just for the record, it would be ambulance revenue, not ambulance
Sorry.
trust.
Yeah, ambulance revenue.
Amount of.
All right.
Sounds
Okay.
reserved.
Well, thanks for the update.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
So we'll plan to respond to the chief with just we understand this is the
Yeah.
case, and we'll.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds fine.
And Andrew, you know that with that was not in the original budget proposal. So that will be
We'll have to
an
add that.
addendum just as the funding source as we move forward.
Okay. Thank you. I'm going to stay out of order. And Steve, since you're here, I'll bring you in next with community preservation, because the finance committee is at 6:30. So I don't want you to have to wait too long. We thank Community Preservation Committee Chair for being here this evening. What we request is having committees come forward so they can tell the town what they're up to, what they're looking forward to at town meeting, what they're going to be presenting, and sort of an update on what they've been doing. So thank you for being here, and I'll hand it over to you, Steve.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for having us. So there were 15 applications that were reviewed between November 10th and February 24th. And the 7 that were moved forward for consideration for warrant and town meeting were supplemental funding for the church steeple rehabilitation, including the town clock. That involved, it was written by the town administrator with the details provided by Mark Gillott. It had gone under $3,000 over for the increased scaffolding rental and the price of the gold paint. Of course, the town owns the clock. The steeple was actually the original project for the Community Preservation Act funding from the town, because it's considered a icon. And you can do that, even though the quid pro quo really is just the visual percept of the steeple, but it's an important structure in the town and was so approved. The second was a housing production plan. The last plan was 2015. Absent a plan, the town's at risk for an unfriendly 40B coming in. And this was something that maybe could have been produced in-house in a perfect situation, which never with staffing can occur, where it seems to occur. So there's still, I believe, waiting on Isabel Yeager, Assistant Town Planner, and Andrew Levine are waiting on an eco, help me, Andrew, eco.
Yeah, the state's Eco One-Stop grants, they have planning assistance grants that we have applied for this assistance. So if we receive that, then we shouldn't need the CPA funds, but if we don't, be very helpful.
So as a safeguarding measure, we approved $40,000 at the request in case a grant fails to come through. The School Street Park restoration, that was an important project, and there's need to refurbish and we had a comprehensive explanation of the project by our new DPW director, with a couple of requests to have an option 1 or option 2 for the playground, to have the final decision be in the Recreation Commission's, under their purview. We had, as our committee, preferred option 2, and then the only additional change was a request to have, for accessibility purposes, one of the swing sets become a blue bucket swing. There's a 7 Elm Street, a property owned by Michael Bartlett, ate up a lot of time. The town, since the inception in 2006 of the Community Preservation Act, has not been successful in generating a lot of housing projects. In fact, none was ever approved on town floor. So this frankly ate up a lot of time, and a lengthy, rendered motion done primarily by Isabel, but with Yeager, assistant town planner, with Andrew's input and my input, was introduced into the minutes verbatim, which will cover a lot of the needed safeguards when you're doing this. Early money, quote, early money for an affordable housing project is done. Community Preservation Act money is used. The town right now is at 2.7% for affordable housing. And the project was amended to be an 8-unit apartment with 2 of the units, so 25%, at 80% AMI, and being 2 out of 8 or 25% lets you, allows a community to check off on its subsidized housing count the 8 units. So that would help us with the affordable housing stock, in fact, and the appearance that we're starting to do something about this. The Cutter Farm Museum roof and siding replacement was money appropriated last year. There was a grant that looked attractive, so the appropriation for last year was with the understanding that the town administrator would do the work to look for another grant. In the process of doing that and speaking with a consultant, I believe that was what happened, Andrew. You found out that the money there originally wasn't going to be enough. There was a follow through. You're waiting to hear on the grant, I believe.
Yep. Grant has been submitted.
And so this would be a metal roof that the Historic Commission has decided is historically correct for a barn, a tobacco barn, and then be siding. And of course, John Pease is on the CPC committee and has a lot of information about this, but that was also approved. 2 projects came in late. One was for APR contribution for the Galanka Farm, half of which, or a portion of which, is in Whately, a portion in Hatfield, and that was approved. And then with the Brian Nicholas, spearheading the Day Pond restoration project very skillfully, you couldn't. The inland dredging project grant wasn't received. That whole inland dredging program ended. The dredging came in more, and another about $28,000 was requested. At this point, kind of the CPC felt, well, the town's all in on this. We've got to finish it off, and it was approved. And so those are the 7 that were approved for this year.
Okay, well, thanks for that. My only question is, some questions I get from the residents in town. We still have some projects that were approved, but they've never been done. What happens with those projects? There's the bridge walkway, and there's the pickleball court. And I think those, I don't know if there's any others that never got accomplished.
So every year by, I think, September 1st, we have to do this CPC 3 report, which takes us back historically to 2006. And of course, those off the top of my head too are the famous ones. From Bob Wagner to John Wilkes to myself, and I'm putting Kerry on the spot, but hopefully maybe she'll be the new chair in the fall. I'm really putting her, we got this on camera.
On camera.
Everybody in Hatfield just saw the look on my face.
All right. It's come up a lot through Michael Bartlett, who had to resign this year because he couldn't both be on the committee and spearhead his own application. But Kerry, independent of Michael's suggestions, asked the same good questions. How do we turn them? We need to have a process and decide, perhaps with the town administrator and or select board, how we formally return those monies, pickleball, and also how we procedurally end them. So that there's some guidance from the Community Preservation Coalition. Andrew and I have spoken with Stuart Saganor, independent of one another and in concert, and that's part of the administrative funds of the Community Preservation Committee's expenditures, is to be able to access that technical support. There's a few different options. So that's one of the things we need to do, and perhaps if we were to revise the application process a little bit, ask people for reports every 6 months or so. So there's a little bit more of a timeline accountability built in. There never really has. It's always been something we wanted to get to next time. And frankly, we this year had trouble achieving quorum, let alone getting to some of this extra work. In fact, some of the statutory required positions are planning and a rec commission representative, a conservation commission, historic commission, and housing. And for the majority of this cycle, we didn't have any of those folks. Kerry has nicely come on, was thinking of rec, but we needed housing. And then Amy Novak has now been attending for historic. Mike McGrath was replaced for the town moderator position, and the select board position is Catherine Chiavaroli. So at times it was really John Pease, Michael Bartlett, and myself and Catherine, which doesn't make for quorum. So it's been difficult, frankly. So that's really great question. It's an extra type of work and amount of work, and we'd have to kind of roll up our sleeves and do that and have some more guidance.
Now, the other piece, now going to housing, we've been working on a housing trust.
Right.
So I believe Andrew's had some discussion with you guys on the housing trust.
He did. There was a fund for affordable housing trust request for $100,000.
Oh.
The technical stickler is that trust has to exist as a well-formed, correctly constituted trust, and then money can go into it. You can't do a supplanting of funds into a non-extant trust. That's clear from the statute.
But if we were to form a trust, you'd be supportive of having
As
that
you know,
entity
in principle, we support it 100%. It's a chicken and egg matter.
in part
And in grand
because
discussion of that, it was if the trust was in existence already.
Yep.
It wouldn't have been a conversation that was tabled, and it was only the application was tabled because of the fact that it's not in place.
the cart was very much before the horse there,
Correct.
for sure. And the advantage to having a trust like that, in part, is you talked about the difficulty in reviewing that application for affordable housing. If an entity like the Affordable Housing Trust had folks who were trained and were specialized in these sorts of applications, they could be the entity that's then reviewing those sorts of applications like that in the future.
Yeah, as part of the motion for the affordable housing project, an amount of $10,000 was put in so that an affordable housing consultant, also frequently a type of thing utilized by a community preservation committee, because we all lacked, and at the time we knew we were lacking the expertise. Even if you pooled all the big brains of the town, this has not been done before in town. We need someone. It's a very tight technical area. We all needed help. So that would be another benefit. And then of us going ahead with an affordable housing project. And then if we can then do the funding into a trust, we'll be really financially and technically in a better positioned as a town.
Okay. And the last question I get from townspeople is how much money's in CPC and how is it broken down? I know like some of the money's been put aside for projects that are undone.
Yeah.
Some money was put in for housing. How is that broken down now?
Well, that's a good question. And when Bob Wagner was chair, John Wilkes was treasurer. And we haven't had that. Frankly, I've been chair and clerk this year. And I've been getting some facts and figures at times through Lori Picard, who's been a big help to the committee. Those numbers I can only answer at a course level. At the town meeting last year, we had around $2.9 million. We've never robbed, whatever was 100% of the housing money that we had, we still have all of that because you can't ever rob Peter to pay Paul. On the town floor meeting last year, someone, a fine question, I'm sure a good faith question, when Day Pond came up, said, well, how much, the person wasn't for it, how much have you spent on housing? And I tried to explain that this is not in competition with housing. Yes, it's a good point that we haven't done anything in housing, but we've never stolen from the housing account. I will say this, that we're in the top 7 municipalities in the Commonwealth for the match.
Yeah. I know that question will probably coming up again at town meeting.
Yeah,
so
probably will. We'll have a little more homework done maybe by then.
And I want to sort of cut this short because I know we got finance and stuff coming. They're already here. We're running over 5 minutes now. Do you have anything else to add? And then I'll let my colleagues have any questions?
I do not.
Do you have
I just
anything?
have one thing to express as we get to town floor with these articles and stuff. The townspeople really need to get and understand that we need to be doing affordable housing in this town. It is a process that we are well behind the 8 ball on, and we need to do it because it's the step that this town needs to take action on. And you can, right now we have an ability to have a known resident who wants to do something really good for this town. And if the right steps are taken and we do it the right way, it's going to be an excellent addition to this town and the first step for that to happen. So I can't express that enough because I know we can get to town floor and have people that just may not want to hear it, but it's time.
I agree with you. That's why Andrew's been looking in that
Yeah,
housing
no,
trust.
I 100%, but
putting
this is
that
my
together,
opportunity to
yeah.
give my little plug on it before we get to town floor, and I'll give my plug again that night too. But it's, if people are concerned about it, we have plenty of meetings that they can come and sit on too, so that's it.
Okay.
Good.
Good. We're good. Hey, thank you for coming. We appreciate
Okay,
it.
thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gary.
And we're going to move to, let's see, we might as well move to finance and start doing our
Yeah.
budgets, right?
And so,
Okay, finance, come on board and take your seats and.
So we'll just have Dave here tonight from finance. So finance won't deliberate. We won't have an actual meeting of the finance committee, but the finance committee did already receive the presentation from school. So you'll get to get caught up in that. I'll follow up with finance after, and we'll also talk about scheduling another joint meeting because I think we can get more into the budget as soon as, I would argue, next week. So.
And after this presentation, we will continue our meeting with the rest of our agenda because we still have many items to get to.
Yes.
So. Okay.
We'll get through it. They're not so bad. They have copies. Take mine. This is. Looks like we have 2 copies of this. So no, we don't have that. I'll go make copies.
I can do that. You guys keep going on.
So would you like to start with schools?
That's fine.
Sure. Great. So Connor, Christine, Adam, we're ready anytime.
same one?
It should,
Yeah.
it's updated.
Yeah, that might be some
This update.
It's on glossy paper.
Oh, this is a nicer one, okay.
It's just what was in the printer. Can you give one to Marlo? Because we definitely have. We have one for you too. Perfect. And there should still be one left for David because it's updated.
Well, thank you for being here this evening.
Thank you for
Thanks for
having
having
us.
Bless you.
Okay, I guess we'll turn it over to the schools and do your presentation, and hopefully, I don't know, John's got this on. You don't have that.
We
So.
don't, but we're gonna speak to it. I think
That you're going to speak to us, so that's
Yeah.
okay. All right.
All right. Well, thank you for having us tonight. We're here to present our FY27 budget, as you know. So we can dive right in. So I want to start with kind of an acknowledgement of what we've been able to do as a small district that really has high outcomes for our students. Again, with the support of the town. So just like to highlight some things that we've had going on in the district and at Smith Academy. Right now we have all said and done, we have 83 different courses available at Smith, which includes 9 advanced placement courses, 3 concurrent enrollment courses, which is an exciting new development this year, where students can take college level courses at Smith Academy on our schedule, taught by our teachers, and get credit for those.
for free.
For free. Well,
For free
yeah,
at
if they
Smith.
want credit, they can. Yeah, but the other piece now that we have embedded, which we had talked for a number of years about through a PACE grant, but now it's well established, is computer science, which is part of our general curriculum now. So every student that comes through Smith Academy has computer science as part of what they get. They get it as part of the core curriculum, 6th through 9th grade, and then they can go on to do elective courses, AP courses, and we're hoping next year to add another college level course in computer science. At this point, 70% of our juniors and seniors are currently enrolled in at least one college level course, which that rate jumps to 80% when you factor in AP courses. Just as a point of comparison, that is about 20%, just below 20% on average in the state of high school, eligible high school students in a school take part in a dual enrollment or concurrent enrollment college level course. So 70 to 80% compared to 20%. It's pretty darn good. Likewise, we have 20% of our students have been achieving the seal of biliteracy, which means that they're able to perform at a fluent level in 2 languages at the time of graduation. That's in huge thanks to Angie Baranowski, our Spanish teacher, for doing that. The state average for a school is 5 to 7%. So again, we're having good outcomes with our students. Just a couple of students to highlight here, Anna Tunstall and Ian Gazowski. Recently, Anna was named the Attorney General for Student Government Day. She came in second in a statewide essay and speech contest that brought students from throughout the Commonwealth together. Ian played second sax in the All-State Band last year. So we have some accomplished students that are coming out of Smith Academy. We are able to provide 33 academic elective options. So things where students aren't necessarily required to take those courses, but they can choose to do so. We have 32 different X blocks that we can offer, which those are kind of our clubs that are embedded within the school day. We provide international service trips, cultural language trips, and then annual field trips for enrichment for our students across the grade levels. Currently, we have sports offerings, which are they exceed the pre-COVID offerings, which is fantastic this year. We've been able to field both sub-varsity, both softball and baseball teams for the first time since I've been there and since pre-COVID as well, which is fantastic. We have more than 50% of our students take advantage of our sports offerings at Smith, which is an extremely high percentage of students who are able to participate. This includes middle school, JV, and varsity teams. At Hatfield Elementary, we continue to support the arts, music, PE, STEAM, and that's science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, for those of you who don't know, and band for older students. And we have field trips that are supported by a very robust and outstanding PTA at the elementary school. And for the first time since 2015, on a year-to-year basis, our enrollment has gone up a little bit. In particularly, this is the case at Smith Academy. We're comparing 7 through 12, not just because we have 6th grade in the building now, where we've seen more students this year than last year, which is a nice trend that we'd like to see continue. Currently, we have choice applications that are coming in daily. They are stronger this year than they've been even last year when we had a kind of a coordinated marketing effort. They're stronger this year than they were last year. Right now, we have 34 applications that have already been received for next year. 13 of those have said, yes, we are definitely coming, and filled out enrollment paperwork to accept their slots. 8 of those 13 are at Smith Academy. So people are wanting to come. In terms of financials, that increase in school choice represents about a $65,000 increase to our bottom line that we can anticipate as a floor right now for next year. So that brings us to next year, what we're looking for. We're having success. We also recognize that we have seen shifts in local student population, and what we're looking for next year is essentially level funding. We're not asking for anything. We built a budget this year that looks to downsize classes where it's appropriate, and consolidate classes where it's appropriate, with a goal of minimizing any impact on what we're able to offer students. That has got us to a place where we're meeting with the success. It does anticipate a slight increase to state funding, which we can anticipate year to year. The things that we're able to maintain with a level funded budget includes 2 innovation pathways at Smith Academy, which were new this year, which we started. One is adventure leadership, we're calling it, and the other is mental health innovation pathway. It preserves the Vermont State University concurrent enrollment program, which has been really successful, and hopes to add 2 new offerings for next year. It preserves our AP offerings, and something that I'm particularly proud about, even when I'm having conversations with the community and with the tough conversations, quite frankly, with the staff and teachers at both buildings, is it preserves things like sports, music, the arts, specialty programs at HES. I think those things, if you've seen the news in surrounding areas and surrounding districts and surrounding towns, Hatfield's not the only place that's facing some budget challenges next year. And in a number of surrounding towns, the first things to go are things like arts, things like sports, things that, quite frankly, add tremendously to our schools and to our community. And so through everyone I talked with, the conversation has been the same. Please preserve the things that make our schools as vibrant as they are, which are the arts, the extras, the extracurriculars, the sports, things that bring people together. This maintains a STAR classroom at the elementary school, which saves us considerably on out-of-district tuition rates. It includes the negotiated COLA for staff increases. And we'll talk about this in more depth later. It includes more than $1 million in special education out-of-district tuition and transportation costs. Those costs have increased significantly over the years. We'll talk about that in a bit. That being said, we will need to be right-sizing next year. We'll need to be making cuts. So to do that, we're anticipating cuts to grades where we have fewer students. So we have fewer kindergartners that we're anticipating next year and fewer first graders. We're able to consolidate some of the core classes at Smith Academy. So rather than eliminating elective courses, we can consolidate some of those core classes, and they may be bigger, but we'll still be able to provide those classes and some of those electives that that are vibrant. There is a possibility that we'll have a reduction of a few electives, although I think what we're anticipating is some of those electives being run as half-year courses, kind of abridged versions rather than full-year courses, so students will still get those opportunities. And as I said, some class sizes will be slightly larger, and I say that with a little asterisk, slightly larger for Hatfield, but I think still on the small side comparatively. All said and done, we're anticipating reductions of 5.5 full-time equivalent employees for next year from both schools. So all total across both schools, 5.5 employees, with an estimated savings, as you can see, of $426,850.
It's worth noting that as Connor mentioned, other towns, our neighboring school districts are also having these kind of cuts. You've probably followed along in the Gazette like we have. Our cuts are a smaller portion of our total budget than what I've seen from any other district. So I read about Sunderland's the other day, and the number of cuts they're looking at just for their elementary are pretty close to what we're looking at district-wide. So the fact that we were able to do an override several years ago really set us up to continue successfully. It's not going to be fun or easy, but it's not as bad as what some of our neighbors are experiencing.
Yeah, and I think it seems like almost every day there's a new article with a neighboring town, neighboring district, and kind of just the astronomical choices that they're having to face. And we're fortunate that we're able to take this as a kind of catch our breath sort of year in terms of budget. One place that's important to note is we have a shift in spending. We have, as I mentioned before, our out-of-district costs are up fairly significantly. Look to be like they may be up about $500,000 in the FY26 budget. That being said, that's included within this budget that we've presented. What's not included are potential wildcards that we don't know about because you never know what you don't know. So there is always a potential for additional tuition placements. So those are out-of-district placements where we have a student whose needs we can't meet in district, and we need to send them to an approved school for those needs to be met. This year, we budgeted $126,000 and change higher than the previous year. And we had to add $258,000 and change to that overage because of those cost increases. We did that through school choice reserves, which we were able to cover. We won't have those reserves next year. So if we have unanticipated out-of-district placements that come to us, we will need to figure that out. We budgeted for a rainy day. We kept those in the reserve, and it rained, and so that's where we were this year. The good news is that some of those costs come back to us through what's called circuit breaker or school choice claiming. So we're able to recoup some of those costs. What we also don't know is the changing landscape of federal funding. So right now we have $168,000 that we've planned to and accounted for in our budget, which is about just under 2% of our budget from federal funding. We don't anticipate those sources going away, but it's always a wild card. It also assumes that the state will continue the free lunch program, and that I think we're pretty safe in saying that. But again, should they decide not to, we would, that's a wild card. As we go to the next page, you can see what we have in terms of staffing for near level services. You can see what we've done in the last couple of years, where we've kind of added, where we've dropped or consolidated. And you can see in FY27, our teachers and licensed staff going from 53.5 down to 48 FTE.
So, as Connor mentioned, one of the things that's driving our cost increases is really about special education. And so this was the conversation we had a year ago, was to come in and say, our special education costs are disproportionately climbing. And that story really continues. So the chart on page 6 gives you a sense of, here's where those costs are. So the purple is just the total from the prior year, and the gold on top of that shows you what the increase is. And so in FY22, we had a $100,000 increase. Same in 23, same in 24, roughly. And then in fiscal 25, it jumped and it grew 21%. Last year, we budgeted for it to grow 25%, and it came in over that. So that was where we supplemented with school choice funds. And we're projecting, based on the population we know about, that next year our special education costs will be an additional 21% higher. So that 21% is a $503,000 cost increasing over this year. So as we watch where our budget is going up, it's really all about special ed. Again, not different than our neighboring districts from what we're reading. If you want to dig into what that really amounts to, on page 7, we kind of talk about the multiple factors that contribute to that. Is really predominantly about the out-of-district costs. And so, as Connor mentioned, sometimes we have students that their needs are beyond the capacity of our public school to help them. And so those students, and this is law, require different services, and those have out-of-district tuition costs. Frequently, that also includes transportation to those programs because they're not local, so we provide the transportation as well. The current average per student cost for tuition and transportation is $133,000 per student right now. We have one case that the transportation actually costs more than the tuition. It's, if someone was looking for a new business enterprise, I would suggest they take a look at transportation options because there is clearly not enough supply. So tuition rates are a piece of what that change is. The state allowance for tuition increases had a particular hike in FY24. They allowed it to go up 14%. But every year, the tuition rates are climbing far greater than the 2.5% increase we can ask from taxpayers. The last 8 years, the increase has been 4.2%. But we have schools that they find ways to have other opportunities to increase costs beyond that. So we're typically seeing things beyond 7% a year. We mapped out tuition rates for White Oak School, which is our most modest out-of-district placement program. And they've increased their tuition costs 70% over the last 8 years, which amounts to $27,000 for a single student in the course of that student's tenure in their school. In FY22, one of the other things that really has changed, in FY22, the majority of our out-of-district placements were actually we're able to go to specialized programs in other public school districts. And we've done the same. So we have a STAR program because we had a population of students that had very similar needs. So we could pull them together, hire appropriate staff, develop appropriate curriculum for them, and save on out-of-district costs while still meeting their needs. But based on the population we have and the programs available in neighboring districts, that's not available anymore. And so while those were still expensive, they were less expensive than the other programs. And so that's an impact to our tuition rates as well. The number of students that require out-of-district support is also a factor when we look at climbing rates. So when you consider it $133 per student, even one student is pretty impactful on a small district like us. Over the past 9 years, we've averaged 7 out-of-district placements in a year. We currently have 9. From a budgetary standpoint, one of the sort of silver linings is those students are disproportionately Smith Academy aged students, and several of them will be graduating in the next couple of years. So we're likely to see that number come back down. The cost difference between a mild year and a high need year is around $760,000. So it's a really big swing when you go up a few students, particularly with the rising costs. So you can see there, if we have just 5 students, that looks like it's, 574,000. If we had 10 students, it's over $1.3 million. And just to note, because I think this comes up sometimes, all student services, whether it's an out-of-district placement or special student services provided within a district, so student services provided by an individualized education plan, an IEP, anything in that realm, those costs, if it's a choice student, all of those costs are met by their sending town. So if someone was asking like, well, if you've got a bunch of choice students, you're driving our costs up, like, nope, we get 100% of that back. We don't get 100% of it back if it's a local student. So if it's a local student, the formula is after the first $52,000 that we spend, the state reimburses up to 75% of those costs if they fully fund the circuit breaker program. And some years the state has not fully funded the circuit breaker program. So if at 133,000 after the 52 was spent, that's, I think by my quick math without a calculator, is 81,000. And if we got back the portion of that, we're looking at getting back about 61,000 for every 133. So it's a portion of it back. And those funds come back to us the following year. So when Connor talked about increased state aid, part of what we're forecasting is we had such high needs come in this year, we'll get some of that money back next year, and that's going to help offset what would be hard to make up any other way.
Can I'd just like to share something too that, we had talked about this not being a Hatfield specific problem. This is statewide. Frankly, it's nationwide, but focusing on our state, it's affecting municipalities from Cape Cod to the Berkshires, and everyone in between. It doesn't matter if they're rural, urban, wealthy, poor. Every municipality is having the same conversation. And part of that is political advocacy at the state level, is trying to put the pressure on our state lawmakers to look at the funding formula and where it's working and where it's falling short. And this is what everyone is saying is this is one place where it's falling short. The current formula, as is, assumes a 4% of students in a district will have special education needs. That's not true anywhere. I think the average is around 25 to 28%. And so that's just one way that the formula is currently failing schools. So there's a lot of momentum right now at the state level to look at that, to look at how the formula works, to look at where, what the actual needs are. That being said, I'm not holding my breath that it's going to change anytime soon. But there seems to be more momentum and more voices from more places advocating for that, for a change than there has been previously.
So, which is work we can all do to help support, but it, to Connor's point, isn't likely to impact next year's revenue coming back to us. We've taken a look to try and best understand, as we think about looking for ways to be good advocates, to understand what lever is most impacting those cost rise. So on page 8, this is a really messy chart, but I think it helps you kind of get a visual at what is driving the change. So the big purple bars you see, that's the overall special education costs, which is more than a third of our budget at this point. The number of IEPs is a blue line going across the top, and that looks at student services that are met within the district. So those are part of our everyday costs. That looks like at the number of IEPs within the district. And you can see it bounces around a little bit, but it's relatively level. It doesn't match the cost curve. The number of out-of-district placements kind of has, again, we talked about there's sort of that ebb and the flow, and you could see in FY19 we had 8, it came down to 5 in 23, now we're back up to 9. Again, that curve doesn't match the overall shift, but what does look like it matches the overall shift is the 2 examples we've given for out-of-district tuition costs. So you can see costs for White Oak and Heck Academy, and they're just that sort of same steady climb. So that's probably the biggest factor. But all of them have some contribution, particularly as we have more student needs. So that's what is dynamic in our budget this year. And that's the reason why we're going to need to make some trimming of the budget, trimming of needs and services within the rest of the services we provide. Which brings us just to a quick reminder of what our overall ask is. And that is for town to fund schools with $6,275,066 for FY27. That is a difference of $0 from FY26. And it isn't that we wouldn't be able to use additional funds. We certainly could employ them to good needs, but we respect the rest of town needs, and we're part of the team. And because we have additional state funding coming back in, and we can tighten our belts, and particularly we have a few grades where the just general population is smaller. The population right behind them is not. So it's not a trend. COVID era births were a little lower, but there's preschoolers in abundance in a year. So there's 27 3-year-olds right on their heels ready to come in. But this year we can do this. Choice and other grants, you can see are going to be up. So it's the total budget, not the town portion, but the total budget is 3.6% higher than what we came in for FY26. It's relatively flat once you adjust for what we added in October from school choice funds to cover additional special ed needs. So as we mentioned, because we don't have the reserves to help offset wild card any sort of big changing needs, we really wanted to talk with finance and the select board about how we manage for sort of unforeseen costs. The last many years, thanks to the override and trying to be pretty fiscally responsible, we've managed to weather sort of changes without having to come and say we need help. And we're just recognizing that for FY27, we aren't going to be in a position to take care of that without raising our hands. So there are a couple of different ways that we could manage for that. One of the things, a hat tip to Andrew for finding and helping educate us on the special education reserve funds. So there is a mechanism that exists, thanks to the state laws, that we could create a reserve fund that would require both the school committee and the select board to vote to move monies out of that reserve fund into the school budget. But it would be one place that we could set aside some funding that if we didn't use it could roll over. It would be a fund that if the school budget had funds at the end of the year that it didn't use, that we might be able to continue to fund that rollover, that reserve budget through that. So that's one possibility. That particular reserve fund, it requires that the balance can't exceed 2% of the annual net school spending. So in FY27, that 2% would be $173,970. So it's not a huge chunk of money, but if a single student, we need to have a single student go out of district, that could be another 130,000. So it kind of fits within that need. And it gives some visibility, which I think the school committee really enjoys, the fact that it's like, if we need to do that, you as the select board would also have visibility to that. So it would be a way that you could set aside some funds if there was a rainy day that wouldn't become necessarily part of the school budget until we all said, yep, we need to move those funds. And if we didn't need them, they could sit there and stay put until we did. Should that happen. So when we spoke with finance committee, there are other ways we could accomplish this. I think we just want to make sure that we're having the conversation about it now and having a plan for it, because what we would like to avoid is if we have something happen in October, November, December, because sometimes placement needs change, that we don't hit that and need a special town meeting because we have one kid whose educational needs are changing. So we're looking to avoid that there's something built in, there's a way to meet those needs if that happens. So we are happy to take questions. Thank you for listening to us babble on about special education costs. We didn't know that not everybody lives that the way we do. but that's what, so we're not asking for more, but we're telling you, heads up.
See, I don't know if we haven't had a conversation on trying to move funds on. I know presently we sort of are able to move funds in financial reserve. We sometimes move money into a stabilization account. I'm not sure if we're legally allowed to set up another account in any way where each year we take some free cash or something, if that's to put into a reserve or not. I mean, we haven't had the conversation yet, so.
Yeah, this is something kind of new to us as a concept, and it's our first time talking about it here. But certainly, we have time before the town meeting when we'd have to establish a fund like this. It would also require a vote of the school committee. But the nice thing about it is that it's a reserve account, and in order to take money out of it, would have to require a vote both of the select board and the school committee. And without it, it's hard to think of many other mechanisms for getting money mid-year. There's the finance reserve fund, there's school choice funds. There's not much else besides building it into the budget, which isn't ideal because then that's money that you might not even need, and then you make your budget $100,000 higher. So I don't know if there's any other thoughts, but it could be an elegant solution, and we could talk about either taking some money from our regular reserve fund and putting it towards this. There's some other funds that are out there that we could potentially pull from and put it into, or free cash or something else. But we'll have to see what our line of request looks like and if it's something that we could potentially do. But it's a decent solution.
Yeah, because I know when the fall comes, somebody moves into town or somebody has special needs, and that really throws the budget way off.
In an ideal world, we would have enough to cover, let's say, one out-of-district placement
Into
in
the
that,
budget.
in that fund.
Oh, yeah.
In an ideal world, or a little bit higher.
Reserve fund
Okay.
that could cover it.
But that may not be, when we finance met with the schools, it may not happen overnight. Maybe it takes a couple of years to get that number there, even though it would be great if we could do it right away. But like you said, maybe over the course of the next couple of years, we could look to put some money there. And like Christy says, if there's a little extra left at the end, could that be slid into that account as well? If there's 20,000 or 30,000 or something left at the end of the school year where you've paid all the bills, instead of it reverting back to the town and becoming free cash, that could possibly go, with a vote of everybody to go into there. So in concept, I think it's a great idea. And I think the finance committee agrees it's a great idea to have that money because it would stay there. It's not going to have to be, it's not like it would convert to free cash at the end of the year. It would stay there. It would be that finance, that sort of savings account just in case.
I guess that's more of a Tom Mullen question or legal to see what's allowable. I mean, we have to know what we're allowed to do and what's legally.
I don't think we're advocating for that one in particular. I think we're advocating for collectively, let's find a place to set some aside in case we have a need. And I think whatever way you all are collectively comfortable for doing that, we would happily support.
And I think just importantly with this kind of fund, this would never be part of our budget. We wouldn't go into a budget planning process and say, oh, hey, we have this $100,000 in this reserve fund. We can plan on using that. That wouldn't be part. It would strictly be for, oh no, we had an unexpected special education related cost that came up. We need to work collaboratively with the select board to cover it. And this gives us that opportunity to do it.
It also feels more respectful of the student's privacy should the need arise, because that way you don't have to go to the whole town to beg for additional funds to meet a student's legally required needs, whereas it can just be done in the relative private confines of the select board and the school committee.
I understand, and that's one of the reasons we increased the finance fund a couple of years ago in case there was an emergency, and because we go into the stabilization, it takes 2/3 of the town to vote to take money out. So, in these other accounts, we can actually approach it differently. So, but I guess we'll look into it and try to see what we are legally allowed to do. Because it makes sort of sense to take some free cash put in there. If if you don't need it, it's still there, it's not spent. But if you need it, then you don't have to wait a whole cycle to go to town meeting and get some more money if the need arises, I suppose. And I don't know, you guys got any questions?
I have lots. So in your packet on page 4, it outlines that your reductions are coming from 5.5 full-time equivalent positions. I can understand if you don't necessarily want to list what those are at this time, but one of the questions I have is how does that impact the benefits for the town of Hatfield in terms of health insurance, retirement contributions? Are we actually cutting 5.5 full-time people? Or are you just reducing hours, but they're still technically full-time employees? Or
Yeah, no, we're cutting
full-time
positions.
people.
As far as benefits go, a couple of them are on health insurance, so it would reduce our health insurance slightly.
okay. And then the other thing that I would like to see personally, the $168,000 that you have planned for federal funding that is currently in the budget, which is 1.9% of it, I think should take a look at trying to fund that yourself through whether it's additional cuts or where you need to find it. And that'll do twofold things. I think it would give you a buffer of at least giving you one more position if you do have another special education requirement with an additional $30,000 buffer as well. But also if that federal funding doesn't land where it is and what's anticipated, we're not coming back to the townspeople for additional funding later.
I hear the thoughtfulness in that. Just to share some statewide perspective, because we talked with colleagues in other committees around the state, because everyone's dealing with these same issues. There was a lot of concern a year ago about this funding going away, and I don't hear that concern anymore. So while we're paying attention to it, it doesn't sound like it's as likely. The federal dollars that we get are very enshrined because it's really all IDEA stuff, isn't it? It's
Those
They're
earmarked for
not-
specific programs.
they're very earmarked. They're very enshrined in federal law. Like
They're not just general money that you can put into the account.
no, and they're not programs that are the most likely thing to be cut. So we've heard about those programs getting shifted to other federal agencies, but not them going away. I would personally be concerned about trying to make another $168,000 in cuts, because at that point we would not be talking about near level services. We would be talking about some pretty significant other cuts.
Yeah.
That would impact students very directly. So we've been scalpel-like in these cuts, so that we really worked hard to not impact students, and by that, not impact our potential for growth. Because right now, to Connor's point, we're one of the districts who can still claim that we have arts programs and music for elementary kids. And we have neighboring school districts who are looking at cutting all of that, or cutting all of their sports programs. And so when we're able to maintain that, we're able to maintain kids coming in from other districts. And we have quite the momentum going on that front, where we have families who are talking to other families in their hometowns where those cuts are happening, and they're coming, droves might be a little exaggeration, but they're coming family load by family load back to Hatfield and bringing their neighbors the following year from other towns, because we're able to keep programs. So it worries me to cut much more, because we kind of cut off that opportunity when we do it.
I guess that kind of brings me to my next point. In the chart that you provided, it doesn't line up with the staffing and student levels that you reported to us earlier this year.
Staffing student, okay. Can you be specific which chart? Are you talking about
So
on page
in the
5?
new packet, it would be page 5.
So the teacher licensed staff, we went back, Connor and I counted up payroll year on year when we went back and adjusted for this, because there had been a little bit of shifting. I don't think it was the previous administration. The school committee didn't have insight. We took the numbers they gave us. So when we previously looked at this, it was a little bit different. But we've gone back and adjusted these numbers to be as accurate as we know them.
So from December 15th to now,
Which, no, are you looking at FY27 or FY26?
26 in the report that you provided to us.
Okay, so what was the number in the December report?
It says the total head count is 95.
That's probably combining a couple of things, right? So I haven't added these up.
It adds up to 86.5.
I'll take a look at it and come back in writing, Luke, because I don't want to misspeak. But it certainly wouldn't be malicious.
No, and also then like the student population numbers are different in this versus the report that you had given to us.
Yeah, so these are more accurate. We have students do come and go. We accept school choice up in the middle of the year as well. So we have a deadline of December 15th for applications to start after Christmas break. So these were, we did go through and adjust those to be accurate as to current, not previously, because those numbers would have reflected previous numbers from the fall.
And when we reported in December, I'm pretty sure we used the October 1st numbers that we reported into DESE. But DESE does take a look at the end of the year as well. So we're trying to just keep timely.
I guess the concern that I have, and a lot of townspeople have as well, is that it seems like we have a very large amount of staff for the student population size that we have. And when you look at the trajectory of the enrollment, it's steadily continued to decline.
This is our first year we're up. We're glad to be up. And we're glad to be able to have robust programming. So it takes a number of staff to do that. And we're cutting positions based on the number of the enrollment. But understanding that it isn't the trajectory doesn't necessarily continue. So yes, there are fewer kindergartners this year and fewer kindergartners next year, but the following year we anticipate the number of kindergartners based on census data to double. So it's not necessarily a continuing trend. The population decline has been a 20-year issue, yes, but
I'm just speaking from a lot of residents that have reached out to us, is that a lot of these class sizes, elementary through the high school, are so small that they really could be single classroom sizes.
So
I understand, no one wants to slash positions, but at some point there has to be a level of reasoning here that we can't have a class of 11 kids split into two classroom sessions. It just doesn't make financial sense to the taxpayers.
And so you'll see next year where the cuts are where we don't have enough kids to make 2 classrooms. So district-wide, our average current class size is 22, but we have classes of 31, 30, 29, 27. We have a few anomalous small class sizes that get talked about a lot. And I appreciate that those are very small. And that's why at Smith Academy, we're going to be able to consolidate some of that core classwork.
And for our exceptionally small class, we've already done that. I mean, that happened this year and last year as well for that class.
So we've been making those cuts. We had 1 preschool instead of 2 when there were fewer preschoolers. And when the preschool numbers went back up, we were able to add another teacher back in. So there has been some shifting all this time. And we're going to face a challenge at the elementary school as next year's kindergarten and first graders, which are smaller cohorts based on just population size, that they will be 1 class instead of 2, because it doesn't make sense to have 2 for that number. And they will likely be 1 class going all the way through the system, because there won't be room to grow with anywhere, because we would never add an extra classroom just for choice kids, because we wouldn't know we could make it work.
So there are grades that have 50 to 60 people in them?
No.
But you just said there's some classes that have 27 each.
Those are the
grade level
size.
has 27.
Grades, not classes. Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
not classrooms per se, right? So
But
there are
class-
classrooms that are 15 each. And that's truthfully at various grade levels, that's our goal, is to have 15 kids in a classroom.
I guess the question then becomes, is it sustainable for the tax base of the town of Hatfield? And that's what our responsibility is, as well as making sure the kids get a good education, is making sure that we're doing our financial duty to the taxpayers of Hatfield.
Sure.
And so we really need to take a look at these class sizes are already small. They're far below what the state standard is.
So what is your definition of sustainability?
If the trajectory of the enrollment is continuing to decline, and with the exception of this year, we've continued to add staffing positions, it doesn't make it financially responsible.
So the other way we monitor our fiscal responsibility is looking at state averages. So you will find the percentage of Hatfield's education spending year on year, we come in at 50% of Hatfield's tax base. That's the state average. If we look at per pupil spending, we're below the state average. So we're in the 48th percentile because we have been slowly ratcheting that up intentionally because we had cut back so many programs. And so when we look at neighboring districts and we look at what our costs are on a per student base, we're competitive. We're not, we take a look every year to see what the costs would be if we shifted things. So if we tuitioned out all of our secondary students and kept an elementary school, we've done the math on that. And it would cost the town more everywhere we've looked, particularly because we wouldn't count on them taking our out-of-district student costs on. So, for example, if we took all of our 7th through 12th graders and merged them in to Hadley's costs, we would look based on today's population numbers, we'd be spending an additional $3,000, so relatively flat. And that assumes they picked up all of our out-of-district tuition costs. That's not likely to happen because those students wouldn't be going there, so we would still be holding those costs. And if that was the case, we would be looking at, I think it's around an additional $460,000 would be the difference. So our municipal school district running is saving us money relative to sending them out. Hadley was the most cost comparable. We looked at Frontier and that would be higher in the tune of hundreds of thousands.
I think that is something, though, that a lot of residents are strongly asking for a third-party review of, though, because there's always been the conversation of Hadley's struggling with a lot of the same problems of making Smith Academy Middle School or elementary school. Hadley would be the upper classes or whatever the arrangement might be. And so when you start adding some of those things in, there's a lot of questions that people have with it. So I think that's a conversation for another time that we don't need to get into right now. But you referenced the per student spending and where we average out with that. I think a lot of things that people are looking at is what is our student to faculty ratio, which is extremely high or low, I would say. So when you start to consider that, there are definitely some areas that I think that we need to review. And I think that while we offer a lot of robust programming, I think that there is some areas where some additional cuts can be made. And I think we can find some more money. And, I would like to see some reserves put back in, like some funds put back into these reserves that were once fairly healthy that have since had to be paid down. And I think that should be built into your budget. And that's my opinion.
So I think it's a misnomer to think there have been a lot of reserves in a school budget in Hatfield.
Well, to go from 238 to 0 is a pretty substantial number.
We had a rainy day for sure.
Right.
But truthfully, that 230 was fortunate that we had it. It's not something we historically have had.
But it doesn't mean it can't be something that we can project for the future.
I don't think we're projecting that. And I think part of not projecting having those funds is coming in. Last year, we came in and asked for a 2.5% increase. We didn't ask for more. This year, we're not asking for anything more. And part of the result of that is we're not looking at having a rainy day fund. We could come back and say, hey, we'd like to increase 2.5% along with what the town can ask for. And we could then put that aside for a rainy day. That would be another way to solve having some funding.
And I think just to get back to your point about sustainability for a second is, you're right. We have some classes that are smaller. Absolutely. Part of what makes Smith Academy sustainable right now, because truthfully, when you're talking about future cuts or deeper cuts, that's where they would hit. We can't go deeper at the elementary school. And part of what has made Smith Academy sustainable to the level that it is right now has been our school choice, students coming in for a school choice. And part of what it's attracting students is those robust programs. So sure, could we cut an elective, 2 electives, 3 electives, 4 electives? We could, and we could reduce teachers to 0.8 or 0.6. At that point, those teachers would probably leave and go elsewhere because no one would want to stay for that. And also the students who are attracted and who may be here for those reasons, because they're able to get those classes, that offering in a intimate environment that they would not get elsewhere. They would leave too, and so with them would leave that funding. So whether it's our resident students choosing elsewhere because of that, and we lose funding there, or whether it's current school choice students saying, oh, well, might as well go back to my home district because I'm going to get the same thing there. We lose that funding too. So that I just would caution trying to cut your way to sustainability, because as soon as you start cutting below a certain level, which we've done what I think is a very thorough job of finding places where we can cut. And once you start going past that level, your efforts may be in vain, because when you try to cut to sustainability, you cut the very programs that are truly seeking to make the district more sustainable.
I can understand your point. I really, truly can. But again, just looking at the trajectory of the way things have gone,
Sure.
and with enrollment declining and employment increasing, the efforts, I genuinely understand them. I come from a family of educators. I teach in a multiple different settings as well. And I really, truly understand what you're saying, and I sympathize with it. But at some point, it's the tax base of Hatfield has to be able to support this. And I feel like we're already at that crux of that.
So, looking at the number of staff that we've had over the past, like where we've been this year and the past 2 years and what we're projecting for next year, I don't look at that as a giant increase. So the one place we did have a big increase was in ESPs. And the majority of that increase was really about adding registered behavior technicians, which we had previously had to outsource because we couldn't find them. And the cost for that was quite high. And so we increased our staffing to offset cost. So we saved money by going from 16.5 to 22, but we saved a ton of money in the process.
I guess the problem that I have with the charts and a lot of the data that we've gotten back in previous years, though, is the accuracy of it. FY24, FY25, we have very round student numbers. They're not. I have a hard time believing that those are the actual enrollments to either a 0 or a 5. Versus in 26, we actually have real data. But then again, when we look at the staffing levels, and I compare it to the reports that you have submitted to me previously, the numbers that you're submitting on this sheet don't match the numbers that you have previously submitted in the other reports. So how are we to believe that the other staffing numbers that are down below in this chart are accurate either?
So we can go back and look at that, and I'm happy to report back.
But this goes back to my point that that's the data that we need to be able to actually accurately observe trends, right? So whether it's student enrollment or staffing levels, we need that data so that the tax base of Hatfield and ultimately the select board, finance, school committee can work together to be able to try to create a path that's sustainable here, because it's not currently.
Student data, you can always go back and check it yourself on DESI.
I
for
have,
the
and it
state.
doesn't line up with what you have here.
So it doesn't for this year because we're giving you up to the moment numbers with enrollment changes that are happening versus DESI lags a bit because we report when it reports back. So
But the DESI numbers for FY '25 and '24, if you go back in DESI, don't line up with this report.
I'll take a look because that surprises me, but I'll take a look.
Anything else?
Nope.
Any questions?
No.
Well, thank you for coming. I appreciate it. John, we're going to take 5 and come right back. Okay, we're back as we continue. I guess we can go with capital planning next.
I think it's a great idea.
We'll move right ahead because Christy's still here and David, I know she doesn't want to stay here all night, so.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, sounds good. So I just gave you the narrative piece that we're going to go over, but I just want to point out that you also have the Excel spreadsheet, which gives you the 5-year plan. At least at this point, what we know. So some of these numbers have been pulled out of the sky, or some of them are placeholders, but at least it's some ideas as to what some of the departments are looking at down the road for the next 5 years. Doesn't mean that that's going to happen or whatever, but at least it's on the table for discussion and that kind of stuff. So, but the crux of tonight is really to look at the narrative piece that we got first. And the other thing I should, before we even get started, I want to thank the committee. I represent the finance committee on the capital planning. Ed's our select board representative. Christie's our school committee representative, and then Mike Cahill is our one at large. We still have an at large position open, so if anybody's interested in doing some service to the town and being part of a committee, it's not a heavy lift. It's 4 or 5 meetings, usually December, January, February, and possibly early March. But it's an important role that we play. So you have in front of you sort of how we've broken it down. And last year we put this together for the first time. Christy did a really great job of putting this Google Doc together. The first part are what we call town-funded projects. And as you see on the left-hand side, we've sort of given it a priority of a must, a should, a nice, or a defer, which you won't see until the very end. But these are all projects that we feel that would be funded either by free cash, by some sort of a debt exclusion, a lease, or a borrow outside of department budgets. So the first one is the fire department ambulance. There's a change to the radio specs that are out there that are going on this summer, will be happening. And if we don't make this change, the fire department, the ambulance won't be able to talk to anybody else, including the hospital and all that kind of stuff, because of the frequency change that's gone on. So it's not a huge ask. It's only $12,500. Our recommendation is to take that out of free cash and take care of it that way. And obviously that's a must project, because we don't really want to not be able to communicate with everybody once that change is all and has been made. Our new our new DPW directors asked for a number of different things here that we have on our list. One of the big problems we have right now is with our sidewalk plow. It's old, it's decrepit, it's hard to get parts for, and it's only used for a few months during the year, obviously when there's snow. Marla was looking to buy a mini loader, which could replace that, do our sidewalks. And we also have a number of attachments that the town already owns that would be able to be used on this loader as well. And then it could be a 12 months of the year usage versus a 4 or 5 months of the year usage, and get a lot more work done in other projects. So it's something that we could either fund through a free cash or do through a lease program, however we decide as we go down the road. The next two on the list here are smaller purchases. They don't really meet the $10,000 minimum, but Marla wanted to talk about these and look at possibly either funding them through free cash or possibly out of his own budget, depending on what he might have left over for funds at the end of the year. A guardrail mower, instead of sending the kids out with the weed whackers and spending hours and hours and hours doing that, he's looking at saving 100 to 200 staff hours of work out there to keep our guardrails cleaned up. We already have I don't know if we've received it yet, but I know we have the sidearm mower is it here yet? Do we know?
Over the rail. No,
The over the rail.
expecting it in a month and a half.
Okay, so it's on its way. It's been ordered that we approved last year. So this would complete sort of our program to keep things cleaned up all around town as far as the guardrails are concerned. And then a small purchase for a debris loader, which would be attached to a truck with a big box on the back to pick up all the leaves and things like that in the spring, in the fall, possibly even in the spring. Right now, they're loading them into pickup trucks, covering them over with tarps, and driving back and forth to wherever they're dumping them. And it's an awful lot of time, effort, and energy that doesn't need to happen. Again, this would be another one that would save money, where he might be able to some of the summer help stays on a little bit longer than probably they could or should, and we might save a couple of weeks worth of pay on some of that for a very small cost of a little under $5,000. Personally, I'm not sure why we don't already own one of these, but it's certainly something that we probably should have. There's also I guess there's been some concern about the fire department apparatus bay, that people have found parts of shingles in the parking lot or whatever, and so we have a price to replace that with asphalt shingles at $35,000 or metal at $68,000. Again, it's one of those things that we maybe do this year, maybe do next year. It would be nice, or should, but I don't think there's any active leaks that we know of at this point in that building. It's got 2 courses on it now, so you're gonna have to take some time to strip it. We did get quotes from Florence Roofing for both of these projects, for both of those materials. And then of course, this has been on the capital plan for a number of years, is to replace the fire chief's vehicle. It is 10 years old. Even though the mileage doesn't seem like it's that high, it does run a lot more standing still sometimes than it does driving around. So if it's at a scene, it's going to be there. It's going to be running. And if we were to go for a new one of those, which is being recommended by our DPW director as well, that we'd be replacing that at an annual cost for a lease of about $19,600. Couple of other things that were put in. Our town administrator is looking at some point to do some upgrades of security here around the town hall, whether it be cameras, some entry security things where you might have a badge or a card that would, and then we could keep track of who's in and out of the building, especially a lot of things at night. Again, he's requested $75,000 to possibly do something like that. And then Marlo has also asked for maybe this summer or late this summer, when we're doing the school parking lots and the stuff that we've already approved with our override last year, to also do the DPW yard, which is in pretty bad shape as well. Again, that's another $190,000 expense. So those would be town-funded kinds of projects that we've got on there. The next page has the Chapter 90 or state grant funding. These would be projects that wouldn't necessarily,
I just have a real quick question on town-funded stuff. I could go through and add it up, but do you have a total of what the free cash ask is on this versus what we have in free cash?
Yeah, at I think if you look at the
fantastic.
bottom of page 3, you'll see that.
Yeah, all right,
Okay.
perfect. Thanks.
Christie's very efficient at stuff like that.
it.
So, so the next one is like I said, is the Chapter 90 and grant funding. Obviously, every year we get Chapter 90 money to do streets and roads. Last year it was just a little over 400,000. So we're anticipating somewhere in that neighborhood, hopefully.
I got an update.
You got an update? What do you got?
Yeah, that's a 3-year deal with the increase in Chapter 90. I believe it came in at 410. I don't have it in front of me,
Okay.
but same as last year.
All right.
So that's changed.
All right. So we'll have a little bit more there. And he's also you've hired a company called Beta to do some monitoring of our streets and roads, and we're going to use that report to decide where we go next with this money. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So we're not exactly sure where that'll be, but that's what the plan is.
Yeah, we have a few roads in mind.
Right.
Obviously, the winter we had, some roads really showed some wear in just one winter. It happens. So.
Yeah.
But we will have a paving program, even if the beta isn't complete, which I'll bring it to the board and whatnot as far as the roads.
We also have a grant out there through Mass DOT to do some reconstruction of Straits Road, the non-paved part, for $670,000, and hopefully sometime in April we'll hear about that. That'll either be a go with the grant money, or it'll be put back on the back burner till another day. So if it comes through, that'll be great. If it doesn't, then we'll just have to keep trying. And then the last piece is doing an upgrade at the Ferry Street pump station. Now, is that the one that we know we didn't get?
Yes.
Okay. So this is on here, but we just received word that the grant for the $350,000, it did not come through. Yeah. So, so that is on hold until we look at other funding sources.
I got to
correct?
take a look, but I think it was actually an upgrade of King Street, all
Okay.
the internal workings on it. And we didn't get the grant. It was Ferry and King, maybe. if I'm
Ferry and
remembering,
King was
yeah.
the generators project.
Yes, yeah, which we're out to
We're
bid
out to
on
bid
that.
on, yeah.
But
So,
it's either Ferry or King.
yeah, if
could
I went
be-
back, I could find that.
I wish
but
I'd
I'm
brought
pretty
my
sure
book.
it's Ferry Street that was put in for. But that's where we are on the grant funded stuff. And then the last page would be CPA grants or department budgeted expenditures. The first one was a CPA grant that I put in along with Andrew about replacing the tile in the front hall here of the town hall. It went to CPA, and as you heard tonight, they did not fund this. There were some questions about whether they got all the information or they didn't get all the information, and we initially went in to have a like a luxury vinyl tile put down, and then they said that wasn't really historically correct. So we went back with a grant that would be maple flooring like you see all over this building here. But the big key is that there's asbestos in those tiles, and there's asbestos in the mastic that's holding those tiles down. So I was in touch with the Historical Commission because that was one of the requests also of the CPA, that the Historical Commission weigh in as to whether or not maple flooring is appropriate. And I did get some responses back from them, and they haven't had a meeting to decide for sure, but the consensus from what I've heard back from them is that the maple flooring would be historically correct to put down out in that area versus another kind of vinyl or whatever that is. Okay. The unfortunate part about it is they will not reconsider this grant for this year. So depending on how the select board feels about that, whether we go forward with doing the project on our own with free cash, and then maybe trying to get the money. I don't know if Andrew and I have kicked it around. I don't know if we can ask them for the money next year and get it back, but probably not. But if we're worried about the fact that there are asbestos tiles, then we probably need to think about moving forward with the project. And as you heard also tonight, the School Street Playground was funded by CPA. They did approve that, so that will be going forward. The other one is to think about we've had this walking path at Smith Academy that has got started and sort of is in the middle of being done but not done. And there's a lot of issues with the way that it's proceeded so far, on top of the fact that we're waiting for the Day Pond stuff to be done before we figure out what goes next. But there's also some fairly significant slopes out there that we might need some ADA compliance kinds of checks on. Also, the Conservation Commission, because how close can we get to the Day Pond? Are you still on
I
conservation?
am, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How close can we get to the pond with any kind of a path like that using those kinds of materials? We'd have to get some sort of a ruling there.
Right.
It require a full permit. I met with the folks out there.
But the other thought is while they're there doing the Smith Academy parking lot, could we at least get the path from the parking lot out to the field hockey field behind the backstop, that one piece done with asphalt? It would make it easier for all the folks that have to walk out there. A lot of grandparents and things that walk out there to watch games. It would be much easier, obviously, access for the ambulance or whoever who might need to get out to that field. It would cost about $50,000 to get that done. We've requested it through CPA, but it has not been approved. So we're still waiting on that.
Yeah, the 50,000 covers the roadway in to the backstop and the walking path to where it ends installed.
So we could, oh, yeah, that's right. It's
The
only
quote
like,
was broken down. I forget what it was. for this
that's right. It
one.
was like 27,000, I think, to get out behind the backstop.
Yeah.
So that's another area where we can talk about. But you also can see here at the bottom, the breakdown of the town funding, the sort of the musts are only 72,500. The shoulds add up to 236 if we do the metal roof on the fire department bay. And the nices are 265. All projects are 573, although we do have more free cash than that available, but I don't think we're going to be looking at spending that kind of money this year out of free cash by the time we take care of a lot of other budgetary things that we need to take care of. But maybe some of the smaller projects as we get going into the final numbers for the budget that we can get those done. Your last page is also just a summary list of the musts at the top, the shoulds, and the nice. It's just gives you a little quick summary of what's happening. Christy, anything you want to add?
I mean, my appreciation for that committee, and just to highlight that the school department is so thankful for all of the capital improvements that are happening in FY26, and that we had 0 requests for FY27. So we appreciate what we got. We didn't ask for more. We are looking at solar roofing is on our immediate terms, what's coming next. So once the elementary school roof is replaced, we're getting that teed up to have solar panels. So that was part of the spec for that roof so that we can start saving on our electric costs. But that's not there quite yet.
That will probably be a request next year. And the other one is possibly the bleachers in the gym, depending on where that goes.
We're looking for ways to do that without a capital request if at all possible. But our bleachers are
We're having some issues with some of the electric motors that move them in and out. So,
Any questions? I do want to thank David, Christie, and Mike Cahill. David, you guys did an exceptional job on capital planning this year, and I appreciate it. It's a good, fun committee to work with.
Can I ask one quick question? Christy, was there any consideration of trying to move forward on the solar sooner because of the IRA tax credits on solar?
If we find that we can leverage that, we may come back with that request, but I don't think anybody's got the information yet.
Was anyone able to have a meeting with the solar folks who reached out?
I don't think that has happened yet.
That's fine.
So, but
Marlo can answer that too.
it's started, we've kicked it off in case we can find a way to pull it forward.
Yep.
And we're not to May, thankfully. So we may come back with a late breaking request based on.
Do we know what the lift is for that? Even an estimate?
$400,000 to $500,000.
Okay.
But there's IRA credits that maybe could get you, let's say, at least a third of that back potentially. And the other thing on my mind is that, and we don't have to consider this, but we may come under budget enough on the roof and boiler project that we'll have money that hasn't been allocated towards projects, but was set aside for this debt exclusion. If we wanted to, we could go to the ballot and ask to have some of those funds remain on a debt exclusion and go towards another project, whether that's for the paving at the DPW or potentially for this rooftop solar. If we come in under budget enough. And part of that depends on where the paving projects come in on. We're about to see costs go up, I assume, for all sorts of paving, which is great.
Surprisingly, the price of blacktop has not moved.
Really?
It is still the same as last year.
Huh.
Yeah. Chapter 90.
In the private sector.
At this moment.
Yeah.
I love
Chapter
it.
90, there'll be a large escalation if it doesn't come back down after the fact. But
I know that it'll probably be a question of some residents. The potential solar project, is it a lease program or is it an ownership
I'd
program?
rather do ownership.
Right. I would agree with that.
We've been costing it out both ways so that we can be knowledgeable. But I think everyone, based on the deal that Smith Academy's group has, we would far prefer to own it.
I personally would agree with that.
Especially if the tax credits become true.
Right.
That'd be great. Cool.
All set?
Okay, yes, thank you very much,
Thank you.
David and Christy, appreciate it.
Should have brought my book.
Okay,
Really good.
we have still the building, Andrew, I guess you can update on the building inspector and the
Yeah.
accountant.
So a couple things here. So I did send a message around to see if there'd be a potential interest in having another meeting next week. I know we originally scheduled for April 21st. If we could do next week instead, that would give us an opportunity to kind of get ahead of some of these budget questions, just in case we had anything we wanted to go to the ballot. I don't anticipate an override at this time, but I think that or the debt exclusion thing I just brought up, if we wanted to get ourselves in position to really discuss those things. So I've asked the Finance Committee chair if there'd be availability for next week so we can coordinate that together. But the other thing I would like to do next week, if we're up for it, would be to, we have an alternate building inspector right now. He is willing to serve as an interim building inspector since we currently do not have a full-time building inspector. I think the discussion with him has been to pay at a similar scale to what the building inspector currently receives, but to go to 19 hours a week rather than right now our building inspector is at 33. Looking at the workload so far, it feels like that at least at a provisional basis, we could start at a 19-hour-a-week position. We could potentially even try that for next year, full time. So right now, the budget line for, if you want to look at the budget book, we had originally budgeted for building inspector, should be under inspectional services, at I believe 65,000 for salary. That could potentially come down to closer to 40,000 if we do the part-time and at that pay scale that we're discussing. And I believe that with the assistance that's going towards kind of the background research on zoning, so the building inspector would remain the zoning enforcement officer, but we have more support coming from the planning office and from the planning board. We have an online system that's working really well for tracking things, and we're getting more support from the administrative assistant on secretarial work. I think with all of those supports, 19 hours is probably more reasonable, and we can do that at least for now. There is interest in that position from a couple people, from what I hear, but so far I'm happy with the alternate who we've been working with. So I'd recommend appointing him as the interim, and then we post a position for longer term if that's of interest.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Just getting back to what you're saying,
Yeah.
the meeting next week, it'd be mostly just financial.
We'd be talking budget.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and this one appointment for.
Yeah.
Has the alternate given any sort of timeline on how long he's okay with acting as the interim? Is it a month-long thing? Is it a 3-month-long thing?
Very comfortable with 30 days, but also is interested in the position for longer.
Okay, all
Which
right.
is great.
That is great.
Yeah. So it gives us time to post and
Sounds good.
interview some folks if you'd like. I mean, for the longer term appointment, I would think you'd like to do interviews and get to know people. But the alternate that I'll be recommending is Wally Merrick. He works in West Hampton as well, and he's also a builder in his own right. But he's interested, at least definitely in the interim and potentially longer term, which would be great.
Okay.
And when we appointed him assistant, he also came very highly recommended from Kyle as well.
He did.
so.
Yeah. So he's currently serving as the alternate, has been able to step in and approve really anything that we need. But to get him to do more hours, I think we'd want to approve it at the right pay scale and everything else.
Mhm.
So that would bring down the professional salaries line for next year if we do go in that direction, which I'd recommend. We can also think about that ourselves and to kind of see what the work is looking like. We can nail that number down for real when we get a little closer to town meeting. I don't think the rest of the budget changes too much between admin office supplies, business travel, dues membership. That should all stay pretty consistent, but I'll look if there's any room for that. It's just a real question about the salary and the number of hours. And then the other line that I want to make sure I discussed with you, which I don't think I have yet, is accounting. And this is a slight change as well. We had looked at some potential options for either bringing staff on site. Right now, the recommendation would be to work with our consultant here again, CBiz. But something I'd heard about other communities doing that I think would be a really good fit for us as well is CBiz has been filling the function for us in accounts payable, essentially entering all of the information from our warrants into the online system. So we're paying a decent amount for consulting services just to poke numbers into a computer. And that's something we could bring in-house. So what we'd like to do is bring that in-house to one of our part-time staff who's already here and has the capacity to be doing that work. And that would reduce our contract with CBiz from $102,000 to $87,000. So that's some savings for us. And we wouldn't be using consultant time to do this kind of data entry work.
Okay.
So I'd like to move in that direction. We have a proposal from them, and I think that's what we'll do. And continue to look for other options for accounting as well. There are some advantages to if we can find the right person to work in-house, that'd be great. But I think this would help us at least in the short term. So that's accounting. And then overall budget picture is, speaking of our accountants, I did meet with them this week just to take the initial work that I have, which was to take all of the requests that we have, put them into a budget spreadsheet, and then match that with the early estimates right now on state assessments and local receipts and everything else, to kind of look at what our budget picture looks like. And that's really without doing a ton of cuts or a ton of looking at supplemental sources or anything else. And that's just to match up everything that we have in our budget worksheet to what the accountants are going to use to double check that, as we talked about last year. So it shows a deficit right now, which makes sense because we haven't really gone through making cuts or trying to right-size things entirely. And that deficit's around $500,000, which is large. But what my goal is to bring that down considerably by the next time we meet next week and have a plan for you of where we would find to bridge the rest of that deficit. So I think by cuts alone, we can cut around half of that, and then we'd look at whether we want to use any free cash to supplement this year or make changes in some other things.
Does that include the $300,000 that we need to fund as well?
From what?
From that money that we had talked about that we also needed to allocate from last year?
It would include that. Yeah,
so that
for
500 includes that 300?
includes any deficit
all
that
of
we
that?
have from
Okay,
last year.
all right.
Yeah, for sure.
Good.
Yeah, when I talk about being in the hole, like most of it is from what we talked about last year.
Right. Yeah. So that it's. I just wanted to make sure that's
It's
not additional on top
no,
of that.
No, it's
Okay.
really, it's not really anything we didn't know about, with the exception of the early estimates from the state on some local assessments for both charter and school choice are larger than last year, a lot larger than last year, which is unfortunate. So we'll see those could change potentially, but we need to budget for the whole size that they're showing.
Okay.
So that's kind of where we're at the moment. But I
All
think
right.
we have the opportunity to cut down further.
And we're ready to move to topic 1.
There we go.
What is that?
Can we set the meeting?
Time?
I think I still
next
need. Did you hear anything from Sean about what?
Yeah,
proposing?
we're open, I think, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Oh, great. Can we do Tuesday night from this group? What's the
Tuesday
plan on
the
that?
7th?
Yeah. It's 5:30 on the 7th.
Yep.
John, you want to come? Great. I'll make
5:30?
sure we have a room, and I think we'll plan to do upstairs so we can.
Can we compromise and say 6? Because I know Daryl sometimes,
Yeah, let's do 6.
it's better for him at 6:30, but if we compromise at 6, then
Yeah, that's fine.
So that's instead of the 21st?
Yes. Yep, we're going to plan on not having to meet on the 21st.
Really?
Is that it? Over ambitious?
Yeah, I would say so.
And my thought is if we can do the 7th and the 14th, and then the 28th, we should be okay. But-
I was anticipating skipping the 14th and then meeting the 21st.
No, I think we'd like to do the
gotcha.
7th, 14th, and 28th.
Okay. All right. Then
Without
I'm
the
good with that.
21st.
Sorry.
Okay.
I,
Perfect. No. We need 3 meetings, but if we do the 7th, 14th, and 21st, I think we're okay.
7th, 14th. So 7th, 14th, and 28th.
Yes. Let's plan on that.
The other meeting, the 14th and the 28th, staying at 5:30.
Yes.
Okay.
And then finance would join us at 6:30.
Great.
Great. So let's go back to 1.
Topic 1.
So this is a request from the police department. As I'm sure you're aware, we do have a little less staff at the moment because of the retirement of Sergeant Michael Johnson. Where is my? It's fine. So the request that came in was because the chief and Lieutenant Phillips already had vacation time and time off planned, and Andrew Montz, our patrolman, would have planned to take time off when it could be covered by Sergeant Johnson. Without Sergeant Johnson here, Andrew Montz isn't going to be able to take time off, and rather than him losing that time, which was unanticipated that this would happen because of the sudden retirement, question is if he could buy back 2 weeks of vacation time. The chief has it in his budget that he can cover that. It wouldn't be an extra expense for the town, and it wouldn't create an additional liability for more vacation time hanging out there if we just let him carry it over instead. So it would be a one-time buyback. It's not something we typically do, but because of the extenuating circumstances here of the staffing issues and other folks already having time off, there just really practically isn't time for him to take. He'd like to buy back those 2 weeks. So he'd be paid out for 2 weeks of vacation rather than taking them.
Any questions?
So he's getting paid out for them and not rolling it.
He wouldn't roll it over. He would just get paid.
I'm good with it.
Out of the chief's budget.
Yep. I'm fine with it.
Good with that.
Okay, since, again, because it's extenuating circumstances, because over the years, we've gone through this with COVID, and we've encouraged everybody to make sure they take their vacation, because everybody needs a vacation, but I can understand because of the situation they're in, it's a possibility. We've made exceptions with other departments due to things like that, so.
So I think we just would want a motion to allow Andrew Montz to be paid for 2 weeks of vacation time.
I'll make a
From the police
motion
budget.
to approve the request from Andrew Montz to be paid his vacation time.
Second.
Motion made, motion seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you all.
Okay, topic 5, IT vendor selection.
I think this is also something that if we have time on the meeting of the 7th, we can follow up on this more then. But I really just wanted to see, I feel like I have it down to 2 finalists, but wanted to see if anyone here wanted to be involved in interviews for the vendors, or if you would like to just go with my recommendation next time we meet.
You can go, I think you can go with your recommendation.
Great. Well,
You
then
know
I'll
what
put
we
together a
need.
formal memo for your review, and then we'll
You
we'll
have
proceed.
any objections?
Great.
Okay.
Perfect. All right, that's easy.
Contract with MDM Engineering for Hatfield Elementary School roof.
Yep, so this was discussed last time when we signed the notice to proceed, or the notice of award. Everything's been going well with them. I don't know if Marlo has anything to add, because he's been talking with the project manager in my absence, but
Yeah.
you got a kickoff meeting with them, I believe.
Yeah, we had a kickoff on the 23rd, part of my update.
Yep.
We're moving ahead. We were 4 weeks out at the time for project start. Just a quick note on it, received a phone call last Thursday, and if we didn't give an answer for the color of the shingles by 2 p.m., they were going up 12%. So that's your fuel increase for asphalt shingles. So we got under the gun. We decided on pewter gray, so.
It's beautiful.
It'll look great.
Yeah.
And all that to say, we can recommend signing this contract. The firm's been, responsive so far. Price is great, and again, we have a good they have a good reputation with our designer and our project manager. So
This contract require all 3 signatures?
yes,
Okay.
yep. You'd each sign it, and we'll write your names underneath.
So I just need a motion.
The only question I have with it is that it's not filled out about substantial completion timelines on, at least in the packet that we have. Maybe in there it is, but clearly it's something that we need to make sure
Yep.
is dialed in.
That should be in the supplemental doc. It's in the bid
Yeah.
documents, so it's there. So refer to that. But I'll make sure that it's referenced.
Yeah, it has a whole called out article here, so I think we should make sure that's filled in. But
Okay, we'll take care of that.
other than that, looks good.
Great. And clearly, our timeline is very well defined on this. We need to have everything completed by the first
So we
week of
still need a
August.
motion, right? Still need a motion on this or
I
no?
don't think so.
You
okay.
can make
Really?
a motion, I think. A motion to approve the contract with MDM Engineering.
I'll make a motion to approve the contract with MDM Engineering for the Hatfield Elementary School roof.
Second.
Motion made, motion seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
All right.
Motion carries. So we'll be able to sign that one. All right. Declaration of surplus property, fire department radios, DPW vehicles, and sweeper.
Chief, do you want to speak to this?
So for my part, this would be just the remaining portables and a couple of mobile radios that we had taken out of the truck back in 2022 when we had gotten the AFG grant and also some town funding to replace all of our radios within the fire department. I chose to hold on to them in case, one of the new ones broke. We still had communications, but we're now going on 4 years of them sitting out in the end bay in storage. They're really of no use to us anymore at this point. So it was to declare them surplus. My hope would be is to possibly offer them up to another department in the area because there are some departments that have little to no communications equipment. And then if not, then they hold very little value, as you see in the note there. To try to put on, we can go to municipal, and then if they did not receive any bids, to dispose of at that point. They're old technology. Most of them are now anywhere between, I think, 16 and 24 years old for the most part on the portables, and the mobiles are probably sitting at around between 14 and 18 years of age.
Wow.
Just going back to the ambulance one, it says, so the ambulance radio that you have to replace now is only 4 years old?
No. Well, that one was from 2020
Oh,
when
okay.
the ambulance came in.
So it's 6 years old.
It is
We have
6
to
years
replace it
old,
already?
yes.
That sucks.
And it is no longer going to be compliant. It's not P25 compliant, which is the new radio standard. Not with the new phase. They're going to phase 2 later this year. So that was it for these radios. Just kind
My only
clean
question
things
is
up.
these aren't of any benefit for you guys for town vehicles, right? So you could have your own radio channel to communicate, or
I would say no.
okay, all right, good enough. I mean, they clearly don't hold very much value at all. So
We can't use them.
yeah,
Yeah, they're good for little things here and there, and
Yeah.
but with what we already have in town, they're really no use for us
And
anymore.
I'll entertain a motion. Then
I'll make a motion to declare the fire department radios as surplus.
Second.
as indicated on this list, right?
Yes, as indicated on the list provided.
Okay, motion made,
Second.
motion seconded. Any discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. DPW surplus.
You have to vote individually or all 5?
We'll do all 5.
Okay. Hopefully it's pretty self-explanatory. The first 2, the sewer and water trucks were the ones that were just replaced and we received. They really don't have any value to us. They need a ton of work. So looking to declare them. The other one is an F-350 that I believe is the one sitting out in the yard with no bed on it when I arrived. And that thing needs a ton of work. It's not worth investing in, frame troubles, so on and so forth, with 126,000 on it. The 99 International dump truck, although we haven't received the hook truck yet, I figured I'd put it on the list now. So this particular truck has a slide-in sander that we do gravel roads with, and it also doubles to salt the roads if we lose one of our main salt trucks. It's definitely got a frame problem. So I just wanted to get it surplus now. So if winter is over, we can go ahead and surplus it. The sweeper, That is an extremely old sweeper. It doesn't have a center line broom. It's just got a gutter broom and a rear broom, and honestly needs a ton of money put into it in order to make it roadworthy and dependable for us. I talked it over with the highway superintendent, and dealing with sweeping in my last communities. If we need, a major amount of sweeping done, it's relatively cheap at the end of the day to contract it rather than with a small crew, put someone out there for a week or whatnot. And we do have other small brooms that go on our equipment in case there's a spill and whatnot in town, we can come clean it up. So this also helps free up a little more space in the back building, as we call it. So I will have more to come, probably smaller stuff and whatnot, but I figured we get going on the larger vehicles first.
Any questions?
Nope.
Then I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to declare the 5 items listed as surplus.
Second.
W.
Motion
Oh,
made,
sorry.
motion seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion
Aye.
carries. Okay. Okay, item 8, the Department of Fish and Game acquisition of 7.7 acres of wildlife. So to give people sort of an idea, is near the old airport, sort of behind Shimmerowski's. The Fish and Game already has a section of land that is under their jurisdiction. So there's I don't know if John can see it. There's a little piece of land that was 7.7 acres that's inside that they're going to acquire.
And it seems to me this is purely informational for us, but I just want to make sure this is in your packet so you can see it, and this way we're making it known to the public as well. It doesn't appear that there's anything we need to do. They just want to inform us, and we can also plan on what that will do to taxes, which are already pretty negligible on this piece. But it looks like it would take one small parcel currently owned by the Duda Irrevocable Land Trust and bring it into the rest of the reserve. So looks fine.
And also, if people in town are interested on where the Fish and Game owns property in town, you can go to the Massachusetts Gov site, the Fish and Game site, and they do have maps of a couple other parcels in town that is under their jurisdiction for fishing or hunting. So some people may not be aware of that. All right. So appointments and resignations is next, topic 9.
Yep, 2 resignations tonight. I'll let Marlo speak to the first one.
Yes, I want to thank Mr. Zakaitis, especially for this winter. The whole crew did an outstanding job, very dependable. He's decided to take a position with another entity. His last day is Friday.
I'll make a motion to accept Mr. Zakaitis' resignation.
Second.
Motion made, motion seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. And
I'll
please-
reach out to arrange an exit interview with him.
Yes.
Make sure we talk. And then we also have resignation of Christian Lowles, full-time firefighter. I don't know, Chief, if you want to say anything about this, but yeah.
So Christian was only appointed to Hatfield back in September. He just has another job opportunity that's a little bit closer to home. He lives in Hardwick, Mass, so it's a little bit of a drive. It's just an opportunity that he couldn't pass up. Unfortunately, he had just graduated from the fire academy the week before he handed me his letter. So he's gone as a full-timer. He does want to stay on as a per diem member. He actually just signed up for a couple more shifts today. So he's still going to be floating around, but he's going to be leaving the full-time position. So right now, there's only the 2 of us working.
At least we still have him for per diem, so that's not a bad thing, I guess.
Yep. And I signed off on some paperwork. He's actually going to be, unless his job changes that, he was going to be starting paramedic school in the fall.
Nice.
On his own cost, not on ours.
Any questions?
Oh, no.
Entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we accept the resignation of Christian Lowell as a full-time firefighter.
Second.
Motion made, motion seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, DPW report, topic 10.
All you.
The cooperative bid estimates for diesel, gasoline, and heating were sent to me. I had to fill out the surveys, sent them back. A quick note on this, as far as what fuel prices are doing now. I mean, we know what heating oil has gone up to. Well, when we get those contracts back, we'll have an option to lock in or to purchase at rack price, basically pump price. So we'll wait for those to come back. I don't expect to see them until the end of May, June maybe. So when those come back, we can decide on that piece. Had a couple of walkthroughs, couple of assessments in the buildings. We had an ADA assessment and an energy audit, two separate assessments. One was through PVPC, which was the energy audit, and a consulting firm of AICP for the AD assessment. And we're just waiting on the reports for that. They went through all the town buildings. I've attached a letter outlining a plan for the Elm Court building with an initial estimates. If it would please the board, I'll get through the rest of my update and we can handle that last.
Sure.
As a point of discussion.
Perfect.
We started our spring cleanup with the highway department, plow damage. Hopefully the blacktop plant opens next week so we can get what potholes we have out there patched up permanently. We helped prepare the fields for spring sports. They come along real nice. As a matter of fact, they were playing on the baseball diamond on my way over here. So good work by the highway department with the assistance of the school department. In the highway department, the highway superintendent and myself were discussing work schedule for upcoming projects and for the summer construction. We got a few projects that were on the back burner that we need to plan to do, such as a couple of roads in the cemeteries, Main Street Cemetery and Brad Street Cemetery. So that's one of the bigger projects. And we do have 2 or 3 catch basins we have to rebuild along with numerous other items. We've had 20 winter storm events. I hope we're done. I attached an accounting report of where we're at. That's all our invoices. That's everything accounted for at this point. We're about $68,551 to the negative, which I think overall with 20 storm events, and they all fell on Fridays, weekends, and holidays for the most part, I think overall we did a pretty good job with the budget.
Yeah. I think it's commendable that we had a much more intense winter this year than last, and still fell $32,000 under what the overage was last year. So you guys did a great job with that. So really good.
A lot of them were long duration events. Even if they were 5 inches, they were long duration.
Yeah.
So.
And there was no sacrifice in quality of the roads either. So,
well, that was the thing. I insisted on providing what they've provided in the past, and I basically Hatfield wants a black roads policy, and that's what we did. We provided that. So, just last week, a sinkhole developed in Maple Street, and we dug it up on an emergency dig, and it was an old decayed telephone pole that got cut off below grade, about 4 feet down. So, no infrastructure issues. Day Pond, that really is no change. I know they've been removing some boards and railroad ties out of there as far as their lay down mats and whatnot, but it's probably still a little wet for them to finish grading that up. Hatfield Elementary School boilers, they have arrived. They're at Adams Plumbing, and they're due to be replaced during April vacation when the school's out of session, which I think is just a couple of weeks away. Pavement management, there's really no change. I expect to hear from them any day to start evaluating the roads. Elementary school roof, we touched upon that and the increase on the shingles, but we got underneath that. Unpaid road grants, we haven't heard anything on that as of yet. Vehicles, the hook truck is due to be in May timeframe. I talked to the distributor last Thursday night. Facilities, real quick, the fire suppression system was out of compliance in this building when it was inspected. So they came in last week, brought us into compliance, NFPA compliance, at the tune of about $5,000, just shy of it. They had to change a bunch of valves that were out of compliance or having issues. And then we also lost another pipe downstairs. Good catch that somebody just happened to go in the storage room up front right next to the ladies' room in COA, and the carpet was wet. It was actually a steam line to the boiler system that sprung in the corner that was kind of hidden. So we got that in time, so there was really no significant water damage.
That's great.
Elcourt. I sent you a memo, and I also resent the proposals that I had sent last meeting. And I think it's important, I've heard so many things since I've come aboard last July on this building and that property. So I think I took a look at it as, okay, I know that it wasn't, I guess it wasn't exactly as advertised. I mean, it all depends. I've heard so many rumors of what that building was going to be used for and what was supposed to go there. So I decided I'll just take the avenue that I'm going to put all that aside and try and right the ship. What can we use the building for going forward, with myself taking a look at it. So basically it's a 40 by 60 3-bay garage. That's what we have there. It's a shell of a building. It has no utilities in it at this point. No cement floor, dirt floor. It did have some other utilities run to it, but I want to stress that going forward, for what I'm proposing to make this building weather tight and good use to the town, I have no intent at this point of that building being inhabited and needing water and insulation and all that. Could it be a backup down the road? Sure, but my suggestion, my high opinion is we can use the storage space for DPW equipment, rotate equipment out that's not stuck outside throughout the seasons, winter equipment, so on and so forth. I feel that this building is a very good asset to the town. We could easily utilize all 3 bays in the DPW, but we also could work with you all and other departments on affording a bay if it's needed, again, for town use. I've attached the 3 quotes for minimal electrical, pouring the floor and an apron out front of the building, and also garage door openers. Now, these are just 3 quotes. If this was to, in the future, be approved, we'd have to get the 3 different quotes and all that. We may come in lower, but these were the ones that I got response from as far as electrical, door companies and concrete. So it came to $56,570 for that building to be buttoned up, secured, lighting, and usable.
That's a total cost?
Excuse me?
The total cost to do what you want to do?
Yeah, and I attached the quotes and they're broken down for the garage door openers. There's a small map with the minimal electrical, give us extra outlets in there, and safety lighting above the entry doors and the garage doors. Any excavation or installation of electrical to get to the building, we'll do that in-house with the DPW. And then pouring the floor, which it's a 40 by 60 floor.
What kind of equipment would you, if that building was done, what type of equipment would be going in there?
So the other thing we have talked about is one of the bays, or a good half a bay, is to set some racks up and have some water repair parts there and some sewer repair parts. And one of the points to that is keeping all our repair equipment up on the hill at the water plant. You get a water main break, it's, under regulation, you got to get up and running as soon as possible. So a lot of our pipes here, and in most communities, you don't know the OD, the outer diameter of those pipes until you dig them up and clean them up and measure them. So most of the time it ends up with a trip on top of the hill to get the fittings you need to do the repair while everybody's waiting. It's kind of like bringing some of our equipment, emergency repair pieces and parts, to a more local location so that we can get to them a lot quicker. But like we have the summertime equipment, the paving roller, some of the winter equipment we can store there in the summer. So like I said, it will rotate out. It'll always have a use for equipment that we're rotating out, that's sitting outside now. Or
And the advantages to the town, we're protecting our equipment a little bit better.
Yeah.
We also have a area where our spare parts are gonna be. And basically, the way I see it, if we have a game plan which you've developed, it makes sense to present it and to see if the town want to pay for it or not. That's all. I mean, I think as long as we can go to town meeting with some kind of game plan of what the use will be of the building, then the town can decide if they want to spend their money or not.
Yeah,
I
you know,
think-
I'm sorry.
Like the big point for me is that it's completing the building back to what was originally voted on by the townspeople. It's putting it back to the storage building, which is what the townspeople originally voted on. It's not making it into anything that's different than that. It's just finally finishing the project. Last year, I believe we were in a finance meeting, and it was one of the things that was potentially recommended to finish. And the numbers last year, if I recall correctly, were even a little higher than this. So
I'd say it was more like $140,000,
Right.
or
Yeah.
maybe $100,000.
I
That
think
was 120 we went with.
Yeah.
yeah. So to be able to complete the project for 56.
But I think what that was insulation and all
Right.
that kind of stuff to
Yeah.
make it habitable, as you say, not.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think it's a much smaller lift, and it's making the building what the residents originally agreed to. And there's clearly a need for it. The conversation of what actually goes up there, if is a movement of town vehicles around, if that's something that we can explore. But I think for an article for town meeting, I would support moving this forward.
I would support moving this forward and let the town decide now that there's a feasible game plan, and that's my opinion.
I agree. Let the town decide.
Let the town decide.
Hmm.
Okay, so we'll move this forward as an article.
I'll
and
start building that into the free cash projections. I think that's where it would have to come from.
That's a
Okay.
nice, that was my second question I was gonna ask. If we could use free cash on it. We'll
I was
see.
also wondering if we could use some of the debt excluded money for it.
Oh, interesting. It's a kind of a small amount to bond.
I just think it would keep us a little bit more liquid in terms of not tapping into more of that free cash.
Yeah. Let me ask about that and see. It's just kind of
I know it's a small number.
it's a small number, but if we're asking for a series of things that we'd work into that debt
Yeah.
exclusion
I think it's a
piece,
small number
we could
for
certainly do it.
an individual project, but
Yep.
it's a fairly large number when you look at it in terms of what our free cash budget is.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
No, I'm up for any creative solutions. So
And,
for
and
sure.
I didn't build any contingency. These were the straight up numbers
Yeah, we'd
from,
add a
from
little
the three
contingency.
quotes we got,
That's why I'm hoping next week we can narrow it down to what we have, and,
Right.
and see what our budget is, because
Yep.
we're still wondering, so.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's what we'll do next week. We'll have a
Getting
good working
closer and
session.
closer to town meeting, we gotta get it down.
I did fail to mention that, obviously fire protection plays into a water main being down 4 hours as opposed to 6 or 7 too. And DEP likes to be notified if a water main's down more than 4 hours. It's under regulation. So I think it's a good move.
On this, I just want to touch on the potential of shifting vehicles around and who goes where and what the bays are used for. I don't know if we can set up a meeting with whether I would volunteer to be on it, but like Marlo, you, both of them are both the police, fire, and COA.
Yep.
We can just have like a quick working group and discuss potential options and what could be amicable and what could be compromised on, and then kind of come up with a plan with that.
You
So
pick
moving
one
forward-
select board member to kind of spearhead that and report back to the group, that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, we can't have more than one, or else we'd have
Yeah.
a quorum. So
That sounds right.
unless we want to post it, which
I think doing it outside of a meeting would be fine.
Yeah.
And, yeah. Does that sound good? Have Luke do that?
I'm fine with that. I don't know, are you fine
Yeah,
with that?
that's good.
I'm fine with that.
That'd be great.
yeah. So if we can get that set up fairly quickly, that'd be great.
We'll get something together this week.
That'd be great. Thanks.
If that sounds all right. Yeah. Perfect.
Okay.
Good. What else?
Town administrator report.
Yeah, I think you've heard enough from me tonight, to be honest. No. I mean, I think Marlo had all the good stuff, and I just have one more thing to say on health insurance because that hasn't been discussed enough tonight. So as a reminder, on the Hampshire County Group Insurance Trust, we'll need to start the process to negotiate with the PEC on the additions of the deductibles and the higher copays. So I will put that proposal together and send that to them. That includes the mitigation that we need to offer as a part of that. So we'll do it through the Chapter 32B, Sections 21 through 23 process, but we can also see if, we've been working with this PEC pretty well. If we want to just reach an agreement and just negotiate without having to go through that process, I'd be happy to do that with them too. So I will be putting that together, send that out to the PEC with your consensus here, and we'll get that moving. That sounds good. Yeah, great. All right. So otherwise, I don't have anything tonight. I think we've been through enough. So I'll just hit topic 12, this idea of a warrant article for Route 5 expenses. I don't really have much to say on that besides that I think we should have one. I'd like to just put, instead of upping our one-time legal and project management and DPW professional services lines to pay for anything that might come up as we deal with this Route 5 issue this year, I'd like to just have a small account put together and we can decide how much money we think makes sense for that. But we'll just be clear with residents about what we're dealing with here. And I think people will understand. It also allows us to track how much it is so that hopefully we can get it all paid back to us in the future.
Right. The purpose is to get it all paid back in the future.
What we'd
Hopefully.
like to do.
Yes. So that's probably a smart thing to do is have that a warrant for that.
Makes it easier to track.
But we need to explain to the taxpayers the purpose of it and what we're doing. So that's the main
And that we
thing.
think it's a reasonable amount. So we can discuss how much we think that should be. I mean, we should have the initial tie-in bond report covered for this year and initial legal expenses covered for this year, but legal expenses will be hefty next year for this
Correct.
project. And if we budget for the geotech piece from that account too, that could be helpful. I don't think we'll have a ton of invoices coming in for that until mid-May anyway. So we can have that approved. So I'm thinking it's somewhere between 50 and 75,000, but less would be nice. So we can figure that out.
Questions?
No, I was just thinking it was going to be like double that. But.
Oh, I mean, it really depends. I mean, the legal could be considerable.
Yeah.
So
That's kind of what I was thinking.
But there, it's already.
Yeah.
High.
Let's see, we do have old business. We do have,
Oh, we have the unanticipated new business. Yes.
anticipated new business.
Perfect.
We have a change of manager for the Hatfield Rally House LLC. So we just need a motion on this.
This change of, it's not change of manager. This is approving of their alcohol license that they've received. Yeah. So they were waiting for approval from the ABCC for their license, and that just has to be approved by us.
Okay.
It's beer and wine, or is it all alcohol? Beer and wine.
So
I'll make a motion that we approve the Hatfield Rally House LLC wine and malt license.
Second.
motion made, motion seconded.
I'll do that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay.
Nice.
All right. Any other thing before we move into executive session?
No, let's go behind closed doors.
Okay. Let's see. Well, it doesn't have the motion on here. It just has we have gone into executive session on mine.
Yeah, same.
I've got the one from last week if you'd like it.
If you don't mind, it should be the same.
All right, thank you. Okay, I'll make a motion to go into an executive session with special counsel pursuant to general laws C 30A, section 21A, 3, to discuss strategy with respect to potential litigation arising from the Route 5 infrastructure project and pursuant to General Law C-30A, 21A7, to comply with or act under the authority of any general or special law or federal grant and aid requirements, specifically the Public Records Law, GLC 4S 726, discuss privileged communication from special counsel and not to return to regular session.
Second.
I have a second. Jaworski, aye.
Kenyon, I.
Longstreet, aye.
Thank you, John, and have a good night. Thank you.